The meeting of the Connetquot Board of Education is now called to order. Motion.
Motion. Second.
If everybody could stand so we could do the pledge of
the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Everyone silent?
Moment silent, please. Thank you. Present.
Mr. Cariola?
Here. Present.
Kennedy? Present. Mrs. Adams?
Present.
Mr. Nucci?
Present.
Mrs. Donnelly? Present. Mrs. Nancy? Present. Mrs. Coleman?
Present.
Present.
Mrs. Hartnett?
Present.
Hughes? Present.
I would like to suspend the business meeting. Any motion?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
Aye. All in favor?
Aye.
I am moving into the audit committee meeting. Motion?
Motion. Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
I'd like to introduce Ms. Sherry Diamond. She's from Sereni and Associates, our internal auditors, and she has two presentations that she'd like to present in summary.
Great, thank you so much. Good evening. I handed out a quick little flyer presentation, as well as the two reports that we're going to be going over tonight real quickly. Basically, just to confirm what our internal audit status is and what our function is. Our primary responsibility is to assist the board in ensuring the district's risks are identified and appropriate controls are in place to address those risks. In conjunction with our internal audit responsibilities, we are required to perform some kind of a risk assessment every year and perform a test of at least one area. The updated risk assessment report, which is attached, has been provided for the school year. I'll go over that in a little bit more detail in the motion to accept the report. And then also the other report we issued for the 14-15 school year, which was our test area, where we did a review of special education revenue expenses. For the updated risk assessment, what that includes is an assessment of any changes in the staffing positions, a review of new or revised board policies, an assessment of the information technology environment, review of the external auditors report as well as the claims audit reports. Based on the procedures provided and performed and reviewed, the risks outlined during our full risk assessment performed in the 2012 school year have not significantly changed in those areas of risk previously identified and outlined should continue to be the focus of sustained practice. So, the request to accept that report and
Well, how about you present the other one?
okay,
and
so I'll present the other one and then we'll do that.
Thank you.
And real quickly, the review of special education, the objective was to determine if the internal controls within the special education department are adequate to ensure that the district is properly monitoring special education costs, as well as maximizing revenue. The procedure that we performed included interviewing key district personnel responsible for strengthening special education services as provided, and testing various types of services to ensure the district is receiving revenue and being billed appropriately. The results of the review, in general, the district has established good internal controls over the monitoring, tracking, and billing of special education services provided. We had a recommendation that the district maintain digital invoices and support documentation files for the provider and verify teacher classes against the student records and records, which is based on the quantity or something that we had noted during our process.
And Sherry, that's really it. Ms. Diamond will be coming back at the January 26th meeting to discuss potential test areas.
For this year.
For this year.
And I'll be supposed to give her something that we might want her to look at.
Yes, that's what we'll do. And that's what, like you can roll that over actually.
Exactly.
Think about that when we meet on the 26th.
You've been talking about that, and I'll show you my reasoning for excluding some and our discussion, and then confer with the board for the area of this. Is it gonna be one area or two?
It's up to you, depends on the areas, you know, from small, we can come to time is staff availability.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you for the report.
Thank you. Thank you.
I had previously emailed you the corrective action plan for the external building. So at this point, if you would please, make your motion to accept these reports that Ms. Diamond just presented, and also the corrective action plan.
Okay, so I'm making a motion to accept the audit and corrective actions.
Second.
All in favor?
Next, I want to move on to the adoption of the budget development guidelines.
So I'm going to explain the process while Mrs. Donnelly pulls up the PowerPoint presentation, if you don't mind. We convened the Budget Advisory Council. That was a committee that was made up of stakeholders, various stakeholders around the district, parents, teachers, civic association members, and community members who have volunteered their time to look at our budget and give us some feedback as to the budget development over time as we develop the 2016-17 school year budget. So one of the first things that we do when we begin to develop the budget is look at criteria and guidelines through which administration, faculty, staff, and the board will focus as we begin to develop and approve different pieces of the budget for next year. So the first step to that is to approve that document today. We asked the Budget Advisory Committee to give us some feedback on the current document and the current permutation, and they have done that. So what Mrs. Donnelly has done is put up the current Budget Advisory guidelines against the changes that the council would like the board to consider. And we've also put some amendments that the administration would like the board to consider as we begin to create that document. So what we're going to do today is just walk you through and talk through the budget development guidelines and look at the different amendments, changes, and edits that have been requested by administration and requested by the BAC, so that the board can come together and decide what the lens is going to be that they'll look through as we develop the budget.
Thank you very much. This is the title page, and then this is the introductory information, which this is going to be posted online. No changes were made to these sections. Here I presented it on two sides as Mrs. Adams was explaining. The blue are the recommendations by the BAC, the Budget Advisory Committee. The purple is some final edification made by administration. So you can see that the BAC just had a subtle wording change. We had our slightly different version. I met with Matt Lavery from the BAC, and we both agreed on the columns to the right. They're not significantly different. Here are some minor changes made here. Increases readability a little bit.
Excuse me? So I can understand why the changes were made.
Sure.
Okay, for example, you took an Our Lodge program in virtual business lab. Can you just give me a reason why that was excluded?
Well, they're being continued.
Okay.
So now we're just moving the focus really towards this other plan to bring students back by way of the academy and some of the other things we're talking about. Just to update sort of the goals a little bit as they affect the budget development.
really wanted to widen the scope. We didn't want it to be so narrow, just to look at those two different programs. So that's why we made those modifications.
This is just a wording change. The BAC is looking for an identification and reconciling between what allowable tax levy is and the proposed tax levy. If you remember last year, we were able to have a levy of 1.62 and we had a proposed levy of 1.25, so seeing those differences roll forward, which is fine. I just changed some wording a little bit. And other than that, it's virtually identical. So that change will make to the right. No change to this section about the multi-year budget planning. Fund balance and reserves will continue the same approach. No changes to long-term liability management, debt service, and the like. These considerations are really the approach to budgeting, zero-based budgeting, where departments and assistant superintendents present their budgets, start really defending their entire expenditure plan. No changes to this. This is a section where the BAC has no changes on the left, but we're changing the Common Core wording to say New York State standards. This is some changes made regarding staffing, where we don't build in allowances for increasing staff, but the superintendent may propose to the board if there's a sudden spike in class size that exceeds the recommended amount or comfortable amount, the superintendent at her discretion may present to the board a request to increase staffing. So we're both in agreement on that. The wording is just slightly different between BAC and us. And then at the very bottom, administration is adding a consideration to add staffing in the IT department. Now that we have so many, such an increase in our technology, smart board installations, just what are some of the things that we have? We have the Promethean boards that are old, but there's smart board installation and 140 of them. So that's a lot of maintenance. That's a big strain on our IT department, and we need to be able to support them to continue using them. This is just a little change in wording here. I think I just cleaned up this middle paragraph to make it a little more readable from what the BAC proposed. But generally, it's the same thing again. And Mr. Lavery was fine with taking the right column. One little change here, requiring a change to the guidelines. If we want to deviate in the budget development process from these guidelines that we're asking you to adopt tonight, we should go back to the board and ask for the guidelines to be amended so that they're in line still with the process as amended before we start making the change of the plan. I'd be okay not having the change. I don't know how you guys feel. It's a real subtle change. I could leave with this one. All right, let's leave it how it is. No changes to this one. This is our plan. None of the dates have changed. These are really state set dates to meet the legal requirements. And we're sticking with the same plan for a revote. We have had the approach always that we'll go out for only one vote. Because the budget that we're proposing, our theory is that the integrity of the budget is not going to change. So the first budget that goes up is the one that we would stay with, even if that budget fails. Thank you very much. So at this time, I would just ask that you, if you're okay with adopting the guidelines, that you do so. I certainly will. I sent you before the changes, and there were these subtle changes that came in actually yesterday. So I figured I'd map it out this way, because you really didn't have time to look at them.
I want to thank you for doing that. It made it a lot easier to see.
No problem, I just want to stick to our plan, our schedule.
I want to thank you very much. I know you didn't have, a lot on your plate to do that. It was great.
Oh, thanks so much.
Sharon, when you mentioned the part about, I guess, requiring to go back and forth for changing the guidelines.
Would you like for it to stay?
No, I guess my question is it a time constraint issue? Is that why, so if you have a,
That
or
could come into play.
is that why, requiring it to come back here to make those little changes becomes a problem, or is that why, what would be the purpose of not having it, or what's the purpose of it not being in there at this point?
Because the development did start to take a subtle change, how subtle is subtle, I would certainly run it by you.
Right, otherwise we have to look at every single change.
Right.
Be a very subtle one or not.
But, I'll certainly be in tight communication with you. And
No, I'm not worried about that from your end. I'm just curious as to the language and how it affects the process moving forward.
Worst case scenario, I'd be 2 weeks away from the board meeting. 2 weeks and a couple of days, and that could slow the sound down. But I don't have a problem. And result from is not that different than require.
Yeah. No, I don't have a problem with leaving it out because I trust that the process is pretty straightforward and open, and so are you. But so if it's beneficial to the process to leave it out, I don't have a problem to leaving that out. Why leaving it as is?
Tomato, tomato.
Thank you.
Your motion to accept the changes?
Motion.
Second?
Well, did we leave it out or did we leave it in?
A motion to accept the changes as proposed by administration, right column, to be out.
All in favor?
But wait, I incorporated the BAC's change.
That's why
I might have questions.
That's why I
Not
complimented
questions.
you on doing both, because it made it very.
I don't want it to
read.
seem that I disregarded them. Thank you.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so we're gonna adjourn the, audit committee. Any motion?
Motion. Second.
Second it, all in favor? Okay, so we're gonna reconvene to the business, meeting. Any motion? Motion. Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we're moving over to the approval of the minutes.
Motion. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, commendation, education spotlight.
Oh, there she is.
Listen,
I think we'll have the children go first. All right, we've been waiting so patiently, someone else will just step in.
So I'm just going to introduce Dr. Colden, because I don't know if everybody in the room knows Dr. Colden. Dr. Colden is the principal of Boston Elementary School. And one of the things that we've done this year is piloted a brand new program called The Leader in Me, which was really brought to the district full force by Dr. Colden last year. She had a book study with her teachers. It was just one of the most amazing things that grew out of a workshop that actually the board members and administration and teachers attended last year at Sachem School District. So it's really exciting. I got to see this performance and I thought, you know what, this is exactly what we need kids to show us, that they've taken initiative, that they love where they are, and that they're just leaders in the building. And so Dr. Colden, I'm going to let you take it away.
All right, well, I have to give some credit to Linda Adams because I happened to be sitting at our superintendent's meeting and she was talking about taking the middle school personnel a little year in there, right? And I'm going, I don't know what she's talking about. And then I was wondering if I was the only person that didn't know what she was talking about. So she said there was a book. And I'm an avid reader, so I went back to the building and I purchased the book. And then I took the book and I put it out at our inquiry team and I said, just do me a favor, just peruse this. You don't have to do anything with it, just peruse it. The next thing I know, we were on a trip over to Merrimack School, the Sachem School District, and we were well on our way to doing Leader in Me. I had found a while back 2 paragraphs about Leader in Me that kind of puts this into perspective. It says, what would be possible if your school or the world were filled with students or people who were responsible, who showed initiative, who were creative, who knew how to set goals and meet them, who got along with people of various backgrounds and cultures, and who could resolve conflicts and solve problems. What a great world we would all live in. This is the reality at Leader in Me. The Leader in Me is a whole school, whole life transformation model that acts like an operating system of a computer. It improves the performance of all other programs. It's based on the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey, and the Leader in Me equips students and people with the self-confidence and the skills they need to thrive in the 21st century. All right? And we have seen such a change in our building. Discipline is down by 75% in our building. That's a wow. That's right. That's a big wow. All right? The children are more confident. They are leaders. And what you see them do in the next couple of minutes is going to amaze you. So, without further ado, Mr. McGuckin is peer leader.
Come on out.
Can Avery stand over here because she
Next over at Boston. And these are some of our peer leaders who donate their time to participate in a lot of school-wide service projects. And they're really leaders for the school. They help the kindergartners in. They go into some of our self-contained classes and help out in there. And they do a lot of service projects, whether it's backpacks for hunger in the school, coat drives, all the different donations and all the different kind of service projects. These kids are really the foundation for that, and they help me out throughout the course of every day. So this was a song which I wish we could take credit for writing, but we cannot. So if this somehow pops up on YouTube, we did not write this.
Yeah, 'cause habit 2, 2, 2, 2. Be happy and in mind.
conflicts of interest. So these kids really took a lot of time to learn this song, to make the cardboard, to make the signs. Took a long time. Lots of letters. But they really work hard with the song, and it's really catchy. You might catch yourself singing it when you hear the real song on the radio. So it's a fantastic song, and you guys can introduce yourselves so everyone knows who you are and how hard you work.
My name is Vincent. My name is Nicholas. My name is Emma. My name is Michaela. My name is Emma Savino.
What's the habit that's the hardest for you?
They're all easy, right?
They're all easy. Go ahead, Emma, tell us.
Proactive.
Being proactive, why is that hard?
Like, I'm used to like doing things, and I'm not really used to doing what you think. Put things first. Sometimes I want to like play outside, then I have to do homework.
What else is hard?
Well, the same as Michaela, I think put first things first in notebook. Sometimes I want to just play my iPod, but I know I have to do my homework and I'm trying to do.
Do you feel relief when your homework's done and now you know, oh, this is all my time? Does that help sometimes? So what's the easiest habit? Go ahead, Emma, tell us.
Thinking win-win.
Why is that easy?
Well, it's because I like thinking win-win, and I think every time, like, we can get something agreed with. Having the end in mind, because I like to build, so if I'm going to build something, I need to make sure I know how everything's going to work out. So that's thinking win-win. Wait, no, I meant sing one specific because like if I do my homework and then someone asks me like if you want to come here, but then I have to like say like a certain time to like when I finish my homework and then
Anyone else want to tell us? Thank you so much for being here. How exciting.
What? Yeah. This is going to be on YouTube. Oh, yeah. Under my name, Connetquot. You want to write that down? Yeah. I put all the BOE meetings up there. You can spread the word to them so they can see their children on YouTube. I think I have a this is a new book, and I don't really think. Oh, yeah, Hey, thank you. Thank you. You're welcome.
Excellent, thank you.
You guys are all going on YouTube now.
Oh, no, I know.
Oh.
I know. Beyond being the super special principal of Boston Elementary School, Dr. Colden has been on the ground floor of the Connetquot Foundation for Advancing Children since the beginning. And this year's co-president is Tara West, who's also here tonight. Every year, the Connetquot Foundation gives grants out to various staff members and sometimes community folk who want to do things for our kids that aren't necessarily supported by the budget. And so every year, quite a few grants come in. How many applications did you have this year? 23 came through, so it's an exciting event. Tonight we're going to honor those who applied for and received those grants, And later in the year, you can actually go to one of the meetings and actually see the product of all of the hard work of those grants. And it's just it's such a labor of love, I know, for Dr. Colvin and Mrs. West to do these things. And I just want to introduce them and have them introduce the folks who won those grants. And I do have to say that they are much better looking than they were on Saturday, where they were part of Zombie Run.
Take time.
I'm glad that the makeup all wore off. It's a major fundraising event, which is a lot of fun, where you try to get around the building with about a mile walk and keep all of your flags intact. And the zombies do run after you. So it's a fun event. So come on up.
Last year, Ms. Adams ran the zombie walk, and she's got skills, and I just want you to know you didn't run 1 mile last year, you ran 5 miles. So, the zombie walk was on Saturday, and we did have about 150 people participating. We do have another event coming up, which is March 10th, is our Community Honors Gala, and that's how we fundraise for these grants in the first place. Standing next to me is Tara West. She is the co-president, but the executive board is here as well, and I would like to recognize them. The vice president, Liz Logan, just in the wave or Marcia Williams, who's our recording secretary. And the person who gets you your money for your grants, our treasurer, Kathy Dolan. When these grants come in, Karen and I don't see them. All right, they go to a grant committee, and the grant committee then looks them over and sees whether or not they're worthy. One of the things they look for in grants to see if it's sustainable. Is it going to happen year after year? If they're giving you money for a garden, you will be able to keep that garden growing, or a greenhouse or something along those lines. So we like the people to come up as we call them. Karen and I are going to take turns. You want to go first?
Sure. I'd also like to thank the board and Central Administration for inviting us to recognize our grant recipients. It's our privilege to be here. Thank you.
Right. We apologize for that.
Yeah. Okay. The first grant that was awarded goes to the school store structure, Donna DiNatale from Ronkonkoma Middle School.
Okay. The second grant is from the Duffield School. It's Be Core Ready, and it's Beth Keola.
What was that for, Gil?
For Be Core Ready. Be Core Ready. Thank you. Motion analysis by Owl Krazina from Connetquot High School.
We have another Be Core Ready grant also from Duffield, and that is from Teresa Hewitt.
The World War II Victory Community Garden by Bonnie Barron from Pearl.
And I know that this person isn't here today, all right, because I got a text on my phone and she's out sick. This is from Basti, and this is the Basti Cafe, and this is Megan McAlpine. She does a little of everything.
The next grant was Kicking It for Autism Annual Kickball Tournament by Emily Chamay, Allison Weber, Ryan McGuckin, Basti Elementary.
The next grant is the Junior Iron Chef, Judy Jones, the high school in Mobile, Mass. Now, Judy was a grant recipient last year, and she made it all the way to
Well, we won in the middle school. Some of you have heard this because we floated about it. We won the Junior Iron Chef competition. So this year I went. Now I'm in the high school part of the day, so I wanted to start the team in the high school and see if that takes off.
That's awesome.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
when you decided to go for a grant, how did you know to go to CPAC for money? And you just turned it out?
Actually, the head of my department, Mary Losing, last year had suggested for my chef's club if I wanted to do the team to go to CPAC for the grant, and it was so successful last year, I decided I would see if we could move it into the high school this year.
That's basically how everyone, you had an idea and you wanted to cultivate it and you went to CPAC. Very nice.
We tried to get the message out to all the administrators and the deadline for the grant start, right? And it's been growing year after year.
Right.
Lydia's been involved with that week.
For years, but you know, it's nice to see everyone come in and see the teachers that took the time out to do this on their own. And all the hard work that I know CPAC has put this for at least 12 years now, 13 years, yeah. So a combination of the two is really good.
Totally, the foundation for Brother Milan has given out close to $130,000.
The purchase of the Leader in Me anchor text, Kelly Randazzo, Duffield.
The International Food Experience from Ronkonkoma Middle School, Donna Giulino.
1-year subscription to Speakaboos, Kristen Lyman, Idle Hour.
A school greenhouse to help Slocum shine brighter. Justina wrote, Slocum.
The 7 Habits book collection, Maureen Strickler, Anna Marie Tong, Elizabeth Whitson, Bosty Elementary.
Book jacket, character education girl boys. Lara McNally, Crystal Sacaritas, Idle Hour.
Proactive leaders in recycling, Joanna Zalewski, Emily Chamay, Bosty.
Allergy awareness and action. Kathy Dolan, John Pearl.
Stand-up desk for the classroom, Kristen Hamill, Slocum.
Recess upgrade 2015, Jennifer Ryan.
Last but certainly not least, the buddy bench, Alicia Feinberg, John Crow.
You're a grant recipient. I guess you're up. I don't know, I'm not big enough.
Can we get 2 rows? You're always in the front.
I was not actually sitting up this picture. Our Community Honors Gala, we have 2 honorees. One of them is Peter Lease, who has been a long-time teacher in this district, retired and now president of the Connetquot Retired Teachers Association. And the other honoree this year is Joe Mariano.
Hey, Joe, turn around and smile at the camera, Joe. He won't do it.
You should photocopy your own picture. Hey, everybody. That's the stage. Ready?
Bless you.
I got that. Do it again.
Joe, can you look over here for a second? Joe! Joe! Thank you.
Good, how are you? Take the money.
There you go.
Nice to see you again.
Smile, you're all on candid camera.
Congratulations. How are you? Hey, Ben, all right? Hey, Ben, all right? How are you?
Hi. Hi, how are you?
Interesting?
Good, very good.
Oh, really?
Congratulations. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hey, Sandy.
Wonderful.
Very good. Very good.
Hey, Tony.
How are you?
Hi,
Congratulations.
how are you? Thank you.
See you.
seen you in a while.
Yeah, I haven't seen you in a while, right? How are you? Good to see you. How's everything, all right?
Everybody's great.
Good. Good.
Thanks for having us. You were a great host.
Hope you enjoyed. How are you? How are you?
Yeah, we'll catch up. Thank you.
Sit.
Okay, ahead.
Okay, ladies, Ms. McGinnis, Ms. Hughes, you're up.
So the three events I'm going to speak about are, they were all new this year, and we hope to make them traditional because they all were successful. First is the character breakfast that we talked about, where all the kids came and we had everyone dressed up as different characters for holiday characters. And then we had a holiday door decorating contest.
How was that? I actually got to see some of the doors. They were really
Yeah, it was actually really fun, and everyone got involved. It was exciting. And then we also had a holiday spirit week for the first time this year, and everyone else participated in that, and that was fun. So we hope to keep them going for years.
So now with the Spirit Week, did every day represent something different?
Yeah, it was, Monday was holiday pajamas, then it was holiday character day, holiday hat socks, ugly sweater day, and a game day for everybody.
That's very cool.
It was fun.
And then, I'm going to speak about junior class and summer class. Junior cruise payment recently paid off, and we're expecting a success like we had last year after the junior cruise. And this year for the senior trip approaching is the end of the month, and we have a little over 350 kids attending, and it's the largest group we have. Wow. So that should be exciting. So now with the junior cruise, I think the first payment came out, and I think the second payment is in a few months. And that's a big event too. I know kids, they get dressed up, they do the whole limo thing, so I'll get to see all those pictures on Facebook. And my son will be doing it this year too, so it'll be exciting. That's all we have. Thank you, ladies. Thank you. If you want to go home, you're free to go home. If you want to stay, you're welcome to stay. Thank you. Okay, we're moving over to policy.
I will.
I'll try. Okay, alright, so the second reading adoption is for complaints about curricular instructional materials, consent agenda, staff complaints, grievances under the Title 9 document, and instructional materials document. Motion?
Motion.
Second? All in favor? Moving over to abolishment. We're abolishing the broadcasting and taping of board meetings and staff complaints and grievance document. Second? I'll second it. All in favor? Okay, so we're moving on to discussion items, new business. First item would be Connetquot High School, the building closure for January 6th. On January 6th.
district that caused a bunch of different things in different facilities. So I just wanted to debrief what had happened both here at central office the first week we got back, and also at the high school the first week we got back. Because as is my habit, every time we have something that is somewhat of an emergency or a crisis, one of the things that we do is we debrief the team and we come up with ways that we could have done better. And I just would like to present that to the board and to the public so that you know that we're always looking to improve the way we react to anything that's going on in the school. So first let's talk about the electric and phone outage that began on January 4th. At approximately 11 o'clock, the electrical relay at the street actually shorted out, which took part of this building down, electric-wise, not the whole building, but pieces of the building, but took all of the heat out from the building. So at 1 o'clock, PSE&G was actually pretty quick to respond, knowing that there was all kinds of things going on in the neighborhoods. They got here and they attempted to replace the relay, but it shorted out again immediately. One of the things that was very nice for PSE&G to do for us, because they don't have to do it, is they then ran an optical and determined that the short that was happening at the poles was actually being caused by our wiring that we own, which in this building is actually underground wiring. So at that point, PSE&G left us live as much as possible. 2 out of the 3 legs that were coming into the building were on. And we then went into kind of crisis mode. How do we fix this and put the building back together? Most of this was coordinated by Mr. John Allen, who's actually sitting there, who I'm going to call on in a little while. Because we did not have all of our electricity up the building was placed on fire watch. We planned for the relocation of staff. In fact, the majority of our staff actually went over to John Pearl, so I have to thank John Pearl, the faculty and staff, for allowing us to be hosted there. And Dr. Flynn actually taught AED and CPR to all of the faculty and staff that went over there, so I need to thank him for that as well. We shut down the boilers at that point in order to protect the building from having frozen pipes, because of course it was the coldest day of the year so far. And we also had our custodial staff place foam boards, you'll still see them on the building, on all the exterior vents to prevent the building from dropping as precipitously as it might from not having heat during a winter's night that was that cold. The next day, all the building staff had been relocated. The contractor showed up at 7 a.m. and began pumping out the manhole, which was where the source of the problem was, in order to be able to diagnose the specific problem. PSE&G told us they were going to get here around 9 o'clock in the morning. They honestly didn't show up until about 10:50. They at that point took the entire building offline, because in order for the contractor to actually look at and go down in the manhole and look at the what was going on, we needed to be completely shut down. At that point, the phone system, which actually routes through this building, which the majority of us did not know, to be honest, at that point, every single phone system in the district besides the high school routes through central office. So when we realized that that had impacted the district so negatively, John pulled over and got a generator brought over to central office, and we got back online as quickly as possible. We did notify the community that we had an interruption of phone service, and the phones were fully restored within the hour. By 5 p.m., the contractor had completed temporary, and I'm going to underline that, bold that, highlight that. The wiring is so old that they were not actually going to give us any kind of guarantee that they were going to do, that we were going to actually get the building back online. But we had to try and get the building back online as quickly as possible. So after the contractor completely did this temporary restoration of the wiring, we had to wait for PSE&G to come and revitalize, re-energize those wires in order for us to know whether or not their temporary repair was actually going to work. At the time at 6:40, PSE&G restored that. We had district staff here walking the building, making sure as the heat came back up that none of the plumbing had been compromised by any kind of ice or anything along those lines, that we had heat and that we had hot water throughout the whole building. So this is why the problem happened. You can actually see that this wiring has a neutral copper coil that is wired around, that is wound about each one of these, wound about each one of them. And since all of our wiring is underground, it's in water, it's in salts, it's really been around since the 1960s, so we're talking about almost 60-year-old wiring that has since decayed and degraded. So this is a temporary fix. It's working right now. They will give us no assurance that it'll work through the night because the wiring was that old and that decayed. The solution to that is as quickly as possible. We're going to need to replace all 3 power lines that run from the pole through all of the underground vaults and into the building, which is going to cost, the first cost estimates that came in just for the wiring alone begin at $36,000 with various other costs that are incumbent upon that as well. So John, you want to help me out? Did I skip anything?
No, I think the biggest piece is focusing on the tip or repair. While we know exactly what happened in that one particular vault on the property, there are 2 other vaults as well as several hundred feet of cable underneath ground as well that we can't visually inspect. To see this kind of damage in one location and knowing that there's actually been other occasions in the past where we've had problems means that it's something we have to address as soon as possible.
Will this be through a bond or is going to go through budget?
We may have to do.
What?
Sure. You want to talk about that a bit?
Well, we can't wait as long as it would take to get approval. We're looking into if this would qualify as an emergency repair. We've gotten very strict with those because of their backlog. But there is a caveat that has existed where up to $100,000 repair could be done as a capital project.
Probably close at least that.
It could. We're in the process of getting the quotes that we would need, the estimates to determine that. But we will be doing this as soon as possible because we can't be offline. And they're giving us absolutely no guarantee, and you can see the state that the lines are actually in. So on the 5th, moving into the 6th, we got a phone call early in the morning from the high school that the boilers were unoperational. Mr. Jason Dulles, who is our new chief at the high school, came in and was walking the building to make sure that it was ready to go and realized it's not ready to go. We have 2 boilers that are both down, and so very quickly we mobilized everybody in the district. By 6:11, the high school principal knew, Mr. Jacob Duncan, Mr. John Allen notified, our HVAC crew was mobilized over to the high school. Probably were there already at that point. By 6:30 a.m., our buses begin to arrive at the school with our students, and the high school regular day began at 7:18. The boilers were still down at that point. At 8 a.m., the middle schools were notified that we might need to transport our high school kids over to the middle schools for an evacuation if we could not get our boilers started that day. We also notified transportation at that point that we may either be looking at an evacuation to the 2 middle school sites, or we might be looking at an evacuation or a go home and over the so all those preparations began to be made by 8 o'clock in the morning. Between 8 and 8:15, the high school parents and faculty were notified by email and a connected voice message that we were having heating issues, and we would keep them in the loop as to what decisions were being made as we make those decisions. At 8:30 a.m., we were beginning to get worried that we had temperatures in some classrooms that were dipping below the state minimum, which is 65 degrees. And we had, at that point, decided that we were below the SED determined levels that were acceptable, and we were going to dismiss the high school. So, of course, in the fluidity that is any kind of emergency, 3 minutes later, the boiler got turned on. So we had just made this decision, we were ready to go, and we got the boiler started. So we now regrouped and said, well, could we evacuate right now to the 2 middle schools and salvage potentially the afternoon of education for our kids if we could restabilize the temperature in the buildings. And the worrisome thing was that no one could truly determine there had been so many tests run and so many switches flicked and turned on and off that no one could truly determine what stopped the boiler from working, never mind what started the boiler reworking. So taking that into account, as well as the differential between some of our classrooms and that 65-degree mark, we at that point redecided or reconfirmed our decision to actually send our students home and our staff home. At 9 o'clock, we made that final decision because it was too much of a disparity, and we began to notify our severely disabled students, the parents of our disabled students, to make sure that there was a safe place for those children to go home, because if not, we were going to make sure that we could arrange transport to a warmer building and supervision, as well as any other parent who decided, you know what, I don't want my 9th grader home from 10 o'clock in the morning on. So we gave the parents that decision if they wanted to make that. By 9:15, we had formally notified parents and faculty in a Connetquot as well. Our buses began staging at 9:30 in the morning. All buses, our minibuses included, arrived by 9:45 a.m. At 10 a.m., Mr. Costa made the announcement for our students to release the buses. We released the large buses at 10:15 after walking through the building. We walked through the building one more time to make sure all of our special needs kids were taken care of, and at 10:30, our minibuses were also released. So the boiler was running all day. At 4:26 p.m., our HVAC contractor said the boiler's running well, and so we returned, Mr. Velez returned to the high school to take room temperatures in all the rooms, and it was determined by 9:20 that about 85% of our educational spaces were acceptable temperature levels, and any that were significantly below, we talked to Mr. Costa as to whether or not we should be moving them for the next day. It was triaged that boiler 2 needed a new electrical source. We were ready to run that on Thursday morning, and an hourly watch was placed overnight for someone to make sure that the boiler was going all night long. So here's our debrief of that day. So the first obstacle to any kind of dismissal at the high school are the bus runs to the elementary schools. So we knew that unless it was a dire emergency, we weren't going to stop the bus runs for the elementary schools, or we were going to let elementary schools proceed as normal. But we knew that about 9:30 would be the earliest that we'd be able to dismiss the students from the high school. There's constantly evolving information. Obviously, we made this decision, and then 3 minutes later, the boiler got turned on, and we were hoping to not lose the whole day. So there was a little bit of an uncertainty, as there always is in the moving parts of a situation like this. The lack of boiler redundancy has been repaired as of now, because usually, if one boiler goes down, the other boiler just fires up and replaces that boiler for the time being. But when boiler 1 went down, boiler 2 was keeping fully firing at that point. So that was a problem. Another issue that we've since discussed and rectified to some extent was that the faculty and staff, even though they received the information in the manual about the evacuation drill and how to proceed with an evacuation, had yet to practice that yet at the high school. Some of that is because we're looking at the procedure and thinking that it may want to be amended, but that will be, it has been shared, that information has been shared and reiterated with the principal and the staff through the principal's weekly newsletter. And there will be, a little bit later this year, a practice run done with faculty and staff first, and then we will add the kids into that practice run to make sure that there's everybody understands the keys to that. As always, we debrief on these kind of things. We actually had an emergency management team scheduled for Monday, January 11th anyway, so much of that was talked about and what had happened during this event. So because that wasn't enough, we also had boiler issues on the next day. So at 6 o'clock in the morning, we had our boiler 1 was operational, it was up, it was fine, our temperatures in our building were where they needed to be. Our HVAC staff was there working on the 1 or 2 rooms that, I think there's actually 4 rooms total, where our univents weren't blowing appropriately, so the heat was in the vent but not being pushed out to the room. So they were actually deployed to do that already. At 6:37, boiler 1 wasn't all that happy, needed to be reset, but we were able to reset it successfully. Our electricians were there already in the morning. They ran the line that the boiler 2 needed, and so they were commencing repair of the redundant boiler already at 7 a.m. Unfortunately, of course, boiler 1 went down again. So at 10:45, boiler 1 went down. It could not be restarted, so they took the workers that had been working on boiler 2 and now refocused back on boiler 1 because that one had been successful on and off for the last 2 days. By 1 o'clock, we were questioning whether afternoon events should occur. We were maintaining the temperature in the building because our custodial staff was making sure that we were maintaining the temperature. It was a warmer day, it was in the 40s, so it wasn't the 19 degrees that we had the day before. But we were afraid that once the sun went down, that the building would begin to cool if the boiler hadn't been brought back up. So we did cancel the whole basketball games that were slated for 4 and 6 p.m. At 2 o'clock, we still felt that the building was warm enough for after-school events and activities to go at least until sundown. So we did continue to permit activity in the building until 5 p.m. 2:45, the boiler was brought back online, of course, because we made this decision that we're going to close at 5 p.m. So it came back online right away. But we decided we were nervous because boiler 1 had been kind of not working and working. It was being temperamental. So we gathered the building administration around. We created a contingency plan. We knew that it took about 12 hours for the building to get to temperature from the day before. So if we could not get the boiler back online or keep the boiler online by 6 p.m., we were going to call for late arrival the next day. And so the building actually made an emergency plan as to what the periods would look like if the kids were going to come in on a 9 o'clock or 9:30 bus run, which would be after all the elementaries. Thankfully, we didn't need to do that, but we did alert a whole bunch of different departments. By 5:35, boiler 2 was up and operational, and we have now since put back the redundancy of the 2 different boilers. John, do you want to add anything, or are we good?
No, I mean, as far as an overview and a summary, I mean, there's no way I can do any better, but if you have any questions pertaining to the actual mechanical failures and what took place, I can certainly try to address those.
How old are the boilers?
They were commissioned in 2002.
So what's the life expectancy on the 2 boilers?
I would say 30 years.
Okay. So mechanically they're sound, it was just that the electrical that was giving some problems.
The high school boiler room has 3 separate systems that they've had over the years. Those 3 systems at various times have all been brought into the same panels, and as such, the diagnosis of problems is cumbersome at best. It's not as clean as your household where you have a wire in, a wire out, there's that control wall. There are literally hundreds and hundreds of connectors at multiple panels, not to mention all the relays, the switches, the limit switches interface with it. So the boilers themselves are fine. The core, each of the sections are fine. The controls and some of the wiring is definitely something that, as we have a chance to exhale and bring outside experts in to assess it, we're going to try to come up with some recommendations moving forward.
So will they get tied into one panel or individual?
Different parts of each of the 3 systems come into the panels at different locations. So if you were to go down to the boiler room, you would see multiple. You have a large control panel. When you come in on the left, the 2 old systems go in there, but they also use that to piggyback the power from there over to the new boilers.
So what will be your recommendation?
We're going to spend a lot of time assessing it. One, we need to make a determination whether or not we're going to move forward with the systems that are in place. There's actually 2 20-year-old cogeneration systems down there that are very interesting to the W3 school. They're not operational as they stand right now. I assume that 10, 12 years ago when gas prices were so high that it became impractical for them to be run. Now that gas has come down to historic lows, absolutely have to evaluate whether or not we should be getting those 2 systems back and running. Not only do you have the opportunity to burn an economical fuel source with natural gas, but you can get just about all the electric that you need to operate that building as well as all of the heating. So we could pretty much come off the grid for a large portion of the year.
That sounds pretty sound.
It is, I mean, it's way beyond my scope of expertise, but I can certainly bring the contractors in who have the expertise to make a determination what the cost effectiveness of that is. So that's definitely something that has to be evaluated. It's something that internally, even before this event, we've been talking about it as an administration for the past couple of months. It's certainly not something we've addressed in this capital project, but it is an active conversation that's gotten a little bit more complicated.
What about the project that's coming up in the bond? Is that anything to do with it, or?
No, it's completely separate to that. When we look at the current project, we start looking at controls, which really is the signal which turns the machines from the equipment on and off. It's not the power rate sources or anything else, so it's totally different scope of work. That being said, once we get the capital project approved, once we get those priorities in place and we start getting on track, we'll assess things on an ongoing basis. But I don't know. To answer your question, the current project, I'm going to have to get a little more information.
John, were you able to determine why the wiring was done like that? Is it like multiple contractors that we've had over the years? Was it done in-house out of necessity because of a certain situation, or is that something you haven't been able to assess yet?
The current contractor we have in the district that's doing work was actually the original contractor who commissioned boilers 13 years ago. So he has familiarity. My understanding is he's been the contractor or HVAC contractor for at least the past 5 or 6 years. So he has hands-on knowledge and wide amount of it. As a rule, provided people are going into panels and messing with the fuses and just messing with some of the relays and everything else, really there's nothing that you or I should be able to do to the boilers to mess them up. There's some resets, there's some relays, and some miscellaneous things that I would expect the heads and chiefs to have a good understanding of. And I would expect them to be able to reset if it's a simple override. We have 2 HVAC guys in the district. Both of them bring a certain level of expertise. The one individual that I rely heavily on is somebody who's assigned to the high school on a regular basis. He's been with the district for almost 20 years. So he has 20 years of hands-on experience with these boilers. He actually has more experience than our outside contractor because he's working on very different models as opposed to the outside contractor who's looking at hundreds of different models. So to that end, we don't have a lot of people who go into the panels alone. We have 2 in-staff gentlemen. If it's an electrical issue, they'll do it. The electricians, which we have 2 of also who are working in conjunction with the HVAC guys. We don't have a lot of in-staff guys going into it. The outside contractor, I know 3 or 4 different individuals that they'll send to the district periodically depending on what the problem is. So there's not a lot of hands in those panels.
Why it was done that way?
Or
Why you're saying, like, quick questions, you sound like you guys determined that it may not have been wired correctly. My question is, how did it get that way? Was it because of necessity, because there was, they were forced to do it that way from the previous problem, or?
I misrepresented that. It's not a question of not being wired correctly. The way it's wired and everything's working is fine.
Right.
But for troubleshooting purposes, it's a whole lot harder if you have to follow the leg for multiple points as opposed to point A to point B. Okay. So it's not a question, they took it, my assumption is, because I don't hear them, is they took the capacitive resistance. They took the power, what was supposed to make you get it, and they brought it to where it needs to.
Sorry, I misunderstood as well.
So when do you anticipate getting an evaluation from the contractor and how to proceed from there?
We are sitting down collectively with our in-staff maintenance mechanics as well as the outside contractor on Thursday. I'm going to put all of our rotations point back. We'll find out why was boiler number 2 not operational prior to the start of that day. The problems that took place with boiler number 1, could they have been, should they have been resolved? I'm going to put it all in.
Is there it daily and monthly maintenance, just, daily maintenance?
It's constant. I mean, first and foremost, the heads and chiefs start the day by checking out the boiler. So that's first and foremost. They're the first eyes every single day as decision equipment. As far as, they know the boiler temperatures, they know the stack temperatures, they can make quick diagnosis if there's a problem at that point. Unfortunately, to have two people that have the expertise to be able to help us troubleshoot things immediately. There's not a clearly established protocol. That's one of the things that we're working on right now. But we do have some prescriptive guidelines as to how we do that.
So that kind of brings us back to considerations, because it's been in the budget guidelines for the last few years to actually consider an additional HVAC person in the district. And that may be something that we want to consider moving forward. The other thing that John just said was the heads and chiefs are the first pair of eyes on the boilers in the morning. It may behoove us to actually put in a night head at the high school, and John's going to speak to that a little bit later in the presentation. We also have realized the necessity of having generators at each one of the buildings. There's already a generator that automatically switches on at the high school, but for central office to go down and for the whole district to be out of the ability to make phone calls and communicate was one of those things that kind of went as red flags to us as consideration. If these underground wires are 60 years old and crumbling, I think it's time for us to evaluate across the districts all the different underground vaults and see if it's time to potentially establish a capital reserve to take care of some of these problems before they become problems. And really lastly, I can't thank the staff enough for the work that they did. I mean, between Bob and Keith, the amount of expertise that they have, and unfortunately Bob's about 2 years away from retirement, and we're going to try to tie his heels to stay here. But I don't, it's... Huh?
No pun intended.
Exactly. Our maintenance staff is outstanding, unbelievable, the work that they did. Technology, Pat Davis, within 15 minutes of hearing CO is down, was like, oh, let's go over there and fix it and make sure that our technology's online and our phones are online, and his staff. Don and Brandon, thank you so much for helping teach the AED and the CPR on the fly. Our PREM was where our administrative office is relocated for the day, and Pearl was where our folks relocated. So, and Jason Velez, I can't say enough about, our new chief at the high school. Just an amazing person to be over there and really making such a difference at the high school. And thank you to John and Sharon, because they're here making decisions all day long, and these are not easy decisions to make. And the texts and the emails and the discussions, absolutely invaluable for the district. So
thank you, Linda.
Thank you.
Are we allowed public questions soon?
No.
The answer is no, soon.
We're having
Very
discussion
soon.
right after this portion. Actually, it was up to 3 seconds.
John's up next.
Yeah, I think you wanted to address those two items, head custodian and HVAC.
John, you're up.
you're up.
What do you want, John?
There's two.
What do you want, John?
What do you want, John?
I'm sorry. So one of the things we talked about is maintaining the line of communication. Having the heads and chiefs in the morning, being that first line of defense and knowing what's going on a regular basis, and getting that feedback from them is absolutely vital. At the high school, we pretty much have that building open 24 hours a day. So in order to continue that level of accountability, to raise the bar, the idea of moving that afternoon individual from a night charge, which is a small stipend of approximately $5 a day, to a head custodian, which is very similar to what's set up in most of the districts, most of the large high schools throughout Suffolk County, gives us the ability to take a message from the morning chief through the next 2 shifts. So Jason, while he's doing a great job at this point, is one individual. He has direct and clear communication with the following shift. But when we start getting into those overnight hours that begin at 10:30, 11 o'clock, it's like playing telephone tag. By the time the information is to them, it's already removed a couple times. So if we can get ahead there, which is a couple person in that position, and I think it would help us, really keep moving that building in the right direction.
It's a couple $1,000s more a year.
Where's a couple thousand actually in?
Yeah, I'm not sure the exact number.
No, but you're talking year, you're not talking months.
So you're talking about putting something that's already there as a head to get our expectation out, or adding an additional position?
It would not be an additional position, it would be somebody who has that civil service title, so they have, it's a civil service position that has to be tested for, but it would not be an increase of positions at all, it would just be somebody who has those qualifications. And you have several people in the district.
With the additional funds that go with that position, with that different title.
And then the other item you were looking for is the HVAC?
It's something, it's a really hard thing for me to say it's better if I don't know the people that we have interviewed. There's no doubt, the more hands we have, this time of year, I sit there and I look at the way the HVAC mechanics go from building to building, from room to room, try to get things done. The amount of work that they get in-house, and that it keeps us from having to go out of district to an outside provider is unbelievable.
And what would that cost, HVAC person?
I don't know what that schedule is. Maintenance mechanical, one, I think it's starting 50, 51, something like that, plus benefits and everything else. So I believe last year with our outside contractor, we spent $120,000.
So do you think that this would be a cost savings to the district if we hire the HVAC?
I don't think it would.
I
think for coverage, for quicker response, providing a more tempered climate throughout the course of the year, I think it would absolutely cut our response time down and would allow us to address more problems quicker. I think it would be increasing the overall cost, but I think we would try to move back.
Would we be able to offset the cost of that person? We spent $120,000 outside contractor. We will offset that. Maybe we're only going to spend $50,000.
Well, and that's
offsite and $55,000, and having that quicker response time and having that person there to do what needs to be done. For same money is definitely an advantage to the district.
And you're absolutely right. I just would have to go through the invoicing to see what the type of services we can build out to. Some of the stuff is simple stuff. Some of the stuff is things that our guys most definitely can do, but they're taking care of the problem in the building that we just need the extra set of hands. So we're going to pay top dollar for them, but I really have to dig into the actual invoices to try to.
Can we come up with that to see if there's some sort of a correlation as to what still has to be outsourced and what might have been able to cover by this additional person? Is that a realistic possibility to make that?
I can give you some response.
I'm thinking as well too, this might even cut down maybe some overtime cost.
We really, the HVAC guys, we're not really put in for a lot of overtime. Because when they're in a classroom, when they're in a boiler room, it's usually because the room is cold, so they're able to do a lot of their work during the school day. So during their regular hours, they're accomplishing a lot. Because they're maintenance mechanics, they also fill in other roles throughout the district. So they do get some overtime, but they're not getting a tremendous amount of overtime. That would be fair to say.
Those are problems that need to be addressed right away. So you can't address it yourself, you're going to bring in that outside contractor. You can't push it off.
Perfect example. Last Monday, we had problems at Connetquot, we had problems at Boston, we had problems at OBMS, and we had problems at CO. And the next day was the high school. We had problems in 4 buildings between 6:30 and 7 o'clock in the morning. Now, they're not of the nature of the people who are down completely, but it was sections of it. It was multiple classrooms. We only have 2 guys. We have other maintenance mechanics who are pretty well equipped to do some quick repairs, but it's not what their training is, it's not what their background is. They help us out, but that's a typical day. To be dispatched to 4 separate buildings is not unusual.
So would a part-timer do, or you need a full-timer?
The number of things that they're able to do here, I think it would be, if you're dedicated, sometimes really overrated. Because we're talking heating right now, it's gonna be real quick, it'll only be a couple months when we start talking about air conditioning. And, whether it's window units or, strictly air ventilation and circulating and everything else, there's ample things for us to do, not only repairs, but getting ahead of some of the maintenance.
So would it help some of the situations that are happening in OBMS, where we have mold buildup and things like that, where we have HVACs running all the time?
Well, when you start talking about the ACs running all the time, it's for different reasons.
Right, now I understand that, but that would be some preventive care there?
I'm thinking more along the lines of exhaust fans. I'm talking about some of the rooftop air conditioning units and changing out filters, getting into unit vents and cleaning them, not just swapping out filter, but disassembling and vacuuming out on a more regular basis. Things that discuss.
So actually, so it alleviates some of the problems that we had at the high school that could have preventative care.
And they ensure, better ventilation, air quality for us. So there are things year round that we can find for us to do that.
Okay, that's why I just want to make sure.
Book an analysis.
Are you, because when the bond is completed, I asked this to Sharon, and a lot of the issues that we're having will be gone.
A lot of the issues, a lot of control issues, but when you think about every single plant, in this room in particular, we have 4 separate units. So if you change the control, it's going to give us the ability to sit in the computer, monitor what's going on, and tweak each one individually. But the actual mechanics in each one of them, the motors and stuff, are still things that we need to maintain. The filters, the cleaning them on a semi-annual basis. So those are things that aren't as well yet.
Have we been doing that in the past 10 years? Does it show up that you're not doing it, or?
We are doing it, changing filters every 6 months, like the recommendations are. I still think we can do better. There are some that we should probably be changing every 4 months. There is a lot of things. Air quality. We have vents in here. We'll pop the grills down and we'll walk in there with the guys and go to the cleaning.
Yeah.
We probably don't go to the roof side unit and do it from that side. We'll change the filters and that's the extent of it. We can take it to the next, we can take it to the next level. We can certainly increase the air quality. No question.
So this would be probably around $70,000 for any person?
Yes.
Well, there's like 50.
Including benefits?
Other benefits.
I believe we said step 1 is 50, and then the benefits on top of that, 25,000.
Okay, so what you're looking for is people to go ahead and start entertaining some.
I don't know if I would ask for it right now. I need to get the information from the contractor. I need to evaluate the invoicing and what's been done, not only up to this point and all of last year, but in light of what happened in the last 2 weeks.
So you want the board's approval so that you can shift in that direction?
Just because of what happened in 2 weeks. I've been here for 17 years.
I'm not asking for approval. It's consideration. I don't want that to be a surprise. I just want everybody to be aware of it. It's also a recommendation that came out of the budget advisory committee, as well as the KC. So it's not to say this is the direction we're going to go in, but at least we're hearing it, we're talking about it, so it's not a surprise.
You brought up a night head.
That was, okay, so the HVAC could be,
He's got to get more information.
is a topic of discussion, but you are looking for the night head.
Right, we have, yes, if I could post that position as a head custodian for the high school, I'd like to see that done as soon as possible.
And would be a head custodian on his second shift.
Second shift, yes.
Second shift.
What's the second shift and what's what?
2:30 to 11.
And how many people do you have on staff on the second shift?
I believe at this point it's 7 people, and then we have 5 on the overnight. And the overnight starts at 10 o'clock, so that person would actually be there for that, to bridge that gap as well. So they would actually be a direct, line of communication to every single staff member throughout the course.
So one of the 7 that are working the second shift, did they take a civil, test?
It may not be one of the people.
So then you may take one from the high school shift? So in other words, you're looking for somebody in-house and sort of rearranging positions?
Right, but I'm not gonna add anybody to the staff here. Right. So it would have to be somebody internal, and it may result in some shifting of personnel staff.
So let me ask you another question. So if you, just arbitrarily, so say if you have a person from the middle school, or say even the elementary school, is there an increase in salary when you go over to the high school level?
From a custodial perspective.
Right, from the, say you, I'm just using elementary going over to high school.
Yeah. So they're separate on.
It's universal to the district.
And no matter what step this person is on, whether they be here 10 years, 15 years, whatever, it's just the increase in differential for the job change.
It's going to be the difference between the night charge and the FPC. So depending on where that person fits on the schedule, it's going to fluctuate a little bit, but that's the
And this is, do you use 2,000? Yeah.
Okay.
So, are we looking to take a vote on?
Yeah, I'd like to get authority to post.
All right, I'm going to take a motion to accept his recommendation.
Motion. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Are you in favor of it?
Yes, she
But
said.
it's for the high school custodian.
Right,
That's
yes.
right, yes, high school custodian, yes. Thank you, John. All right, moving over to proposed high school clubs. Yes, Bob, please.
Bob?
We'd like to recommend for your consideration the possibility of approving 2 new clubs. One is the Conservation Club, the other is the Connetquot Club. Ordinarily, we would recommend that you overlook consideration into a budgeting for the fiscal year, but our examination of what happened is we had a changeover of administration. The administration very innocently believed they had a sufficiency of funding for it. They found out later on that they didn't. There are some very enthusiastic teachers. Connetquot Club has over 30 students interested. A number are interested in the Conservation Club as well. It would only be for a half year, so we're not talking about a larger expenditure at this point. What we're asking for is authorization for us to conclude an agreement for a stipend with the CTA. They've already made a proposal, but we need your authorization for that.
Can I ask a question? Didn't we discuss this already?
We did last week.
We did, we had a
Yes,
discussion,
back in
and I thought we had a conclusion.
No, we didn't do it in
What are
public.
you doing in public? We're making it a public discussion.
It was
Okay.
brought to our attention and now we're making it
Oh,
public.
I thought, I remember your answer though.
My answer was to try to determine what's going on with everything
No,
on Schedule C.
that's not what you said, but I don't know.
Because I want to know, what did I say then?
You said, in order to do one club, you have to give up 2.
My thing was to look at Schedule C and determine what clubs we think, or have the principals determine if there are clubs that are not being utilized. And maybe there is money in the budgets that can be shifted to there, because if we close down 1 or 2 clubs that weren't being used, I'm sure throughout the district, we've got something that's
Oh,
going
I
on.
know,
To look at everything.
I brought that up,
And then
but
to-
that takes a couple months.
I don't think that takes months.
It does
I think
take
from
months.
what
I think
from
they've
what I
done it.
understand, and if I'm not correct, Bob, you guys have gone through and made sure that Schedule C is pretty up to date, is that correct?
Schedule C is.
Okay, so we should have an idea of what's on Schedule C. It should be pretty accurate. Now we can go to the principals and say, hey, listen, what is actually being utilized and what children are being utilized in those clubs so that we have proper attendance. And maybe we can do that within the next 2 weeks or so, and then come to a decision before the next semester starts for the second half of the year and determine whether or not.
Well, we're already
That would
in
be
the
my
second,
proposal.
we're already in the second year.
No, we're not in the second half of the year. The second half of the year doesn't start until February.
Okay, so when you,
Can I ask this question? I had brought up, and we had this discussion, that we should go to all the schools, which you've done in the past, to see what procedure, and how many kids are in all clubs below. In the past, Sharon could tell you this, in order for a new club to start, we had to remove the club that wasn't being utilized. That's the way it has been done. Right now, does anyone know how much over budget we are in that code? How do you?
We budgeted $125,000 for high school clubs, and we have currently encumbered for the school year $134,024. So we are $9,024 over the budgeted.
How much of that is what we added for?
5,000 was
decision
for
to make
civic.
The civic, and what else did we
The
add?
civic was 5,000, and the ABC club is 2560. It's basically the clubs that we added over and above, and emotions in motion.
That's unusual because in the past they usually look at the clubs to see what club is, and it's 5 kids in it that should be closed, and then they add another club.
How much do these 2 clubs cost us for the half a year? How's that will affect the
It
budget?
depends on what you want to authorize as a county. The CTA has proposed $2,500 annually.
Now, they just, some
We
of
have
us
to go
go
into
to
an
another
exec,
club.
we can't discuss that right now. We have to discuss whether or not we're gonna go forward the idea of promoting 2 clubs.
I
I
mean,
want to know how much it's going to be.
that's the 2,500 annually, cut that in half, so it'd be 1,100.
No, we're not necessarily offering 25, so we can't discuss that right now.
Okay, whatever.
We have to drop that portion right now.
Okay, my concern with that is we're not just approving it for the rest of the year, we're not going to take it away from kids next year. So it's something,
Right,
it's an
something to
ongoing
think
thing.
about.
So it's not just a half year, they're proposing as, oh, it's a half year. To me, my personal opinion, I think we should look at all the clubs and see if there's any places that we.
And that's gonna take time. In the meantime, we have 32 kids on one club, and I don't know how many kids in another club that I'm gonna be turning away, and I don't feel comfortable with that.
Then we
We're
have,
going to have to look at the budget's going to be for
But
next
we
year,
have
too.
X amount of kids that are spending $125,000 in clubs. We have plenty of clubs available.
We have 134.
I think that.
I don't know why it would be difficult to look at.
Right. How
You
difficult
just
could
go
that
back
be?
from this year.
Because I don't know how
They should
long, how
know
much
exactly
longer
how
are we
many
gonna
students
prolong
they have.
this.
You go back to last spring, how many students did you have in that club?
Right.
They give you an answer. It should really happen in 1 week.
I think that there's paperwork that these kids have to sign in, and that's how we have gotten in the past. We got to look at, I came back from each school and showed how many clubs, how many students are in each club, and then before a new club
According
is
to Bob, these clubs
assigned,
are still active.
and before there's a new club assigned to anybody, I mean, we added a couple of clubs without doing that this year. But normally, in the past, this is how it's been, because we do have a lot of money. We do, we're very fortunate, I have to say, we're very fortunate district. However, we spend a lot of money too, you know, on things that are necessary, on clubs, on wonderful things. We want to do IB, we want to do this, we want to do that. We're not playing with Monopoly. This is not Monopoly. This is the real deal. Sharon's dealing with real
And the real
dollars
deal
and
is that you have 32 kids in one club and you have kids in another club. Do you know the number of interest in the other club?
I don't, but I believe it's in excess of 50.
So, okay, so now we're gonna turn away close to 50 kids.
Well, there's a kid that wants a club, which I think is wonderful. I just read about it today. She just wrote us a letter about the sign language.
That actually should be a course, that shouldn't even be a club, that should
Well,
actually.
it's not going to be a course at this
I
point.
think actually that should be
But-
something we could talk about as being a course and not a club.
But this is just, I mean, we can go on and on and on.
The bottom line here is I'm looking for like next year, and if we're at 134 right now, we get another, we're going to make sure that we
No,
can
we're
budget.
my recommendation would be to add on these 2 clubs and then we'll have to
I think we have to
revisit
have a
it
board recommendation.
before.
Yeah, but
Then-
you can't,
then-
you're not going to take them away.
You're not going to take them away, because now
You're not
next
gonna
year we're
take
at
'em
140.
away. You can have a look at
Are
it
we ready to
prior,
do that?
and if
Can
they
we-
don't
can we
start
afford that?
right away, then they don't start in the next 2
So then,
weeks.
how long was the budget at 125 for the high school? I mean, are we at years at 125? You know, we have cost of inflation here. Bob, at 125, how many years have we at 125?
You're ready to do 140 for next year, that's what we're
It's
doing.
going up 1.2% in the aggregate for this last year, and there's a freeze for next year. There's a stipend.
How about the other schools? Are they over? Are they on budget? Are they under budget? You know?
I mean, we have over 2,000 children in that school. Is they appropriated to the amount of kids in your school? So is spending 140 reasonable, 125 reasonable?
Just make sure you budget in the
Right now we budgeted for 125 and we're already over like half grand. I'm not ready to sort of.
But I'm not looking to turn away 50 kids.
You're not turning them away. They
I
have
also
other-
think, I also
First of all,
think,
first of all, Connetquot Club addresses a certain amount of children that are interested in that type of thing. Are we offering something similar to that?
I'm sure there's plenty, there's so
I
many.
Are we offering something
I think they need to look
similar
at
to
the
that?
whole thing,
Right.
including the
Okay,
breakdown
but in
that
the
happened
meantime-
as to why Bob was negotiating with the CTA, that this was supposed
I don't know
to,
anything
everybody
about
think
that.
was approved, and it wasn't approved and wasn't brought to our attention.
I didn't know anything
So my
about that.
personal opinion is nothing should be done until we look
Right,
at the whole
until everything
situation,
is done.
and we figure out what went wrong, and why teachers thought, and were under the assumption that they were getting these clubs, and we had never even
But
been
that's a
talking
side
about it.
issue.
No,
It's-
that's not a side issue, I think the whole.
So what are you gonna do with
I
this?
think the
What are
whole
you
thing
gonna
needs
do?
to be
Why are you doing? That is
We're
my
gonna have to
concern,
hold
the
off.
50 kids that have an interest in doing
We're
something.
gonna have to hold,
And another month is not gonna.
And then we're gonna hold up another month, and then we're gonna lose interest
No,
in
I
these
think we need
kids.
to set an initiative that administration needs to look at this and get us this information. Hopefully in 2 weeks if they can, if not, then
Yeah, but how
the
much money are
latest
we
a month.
talking about that we're, Bob, how much money roughly are we talking about that we're gonna turn away 50 kids?
It depends on what you
Just give me a ballpark, on a lower scale. I'm turning away 50 kids for how much? So I'm gonna turn away 50 kids for $2,200 out of a $180 million
It's not
budget.
$2,200, it's $5,000 next year and every year forever.
so it's 22 this year, that's gonna be 40.
Not
You know,
22.
we have to do it the right way, just because
$5,000 this year,
Yeah, we're-
every year for the next however many
it
years.
has to be done the right way somewhere along the line.
We
You
just
just
keep
can't
spending
keep
and
giving.
spending and spending and spending.
And we don't know how many kids are in how many
It's not
clubs.
about,
And
So
we've
then
never
what,
done this
what would be
before.
the reasonable cap for next year on the club?
Well, as I said, you gotta look at the whole.
I don't know until we
all
look at all the
clubs.
clubs and make sure they're being utilized
You gotta-
properly.
Yeah, you gotta
So
make sure,
say
you
if
gotta
all
check all
these
the
clubs are
clubs.
at max capacity, we're gonna go on the higher end of things, so say they're at max capacity,
Then we
you're
have to
still not
rebudget
gonna
for
be
it.
willing to add on another
have
club
to
to
budget
service
more.
50
We
other
have to
children.
rebudget then for that.
We have to budget more if we're all at max capacity, but I think we need to look at all the clubs. And is there a club that's hanging on? Maybe there's 3 or 4 kids in it, maybe
Well, I was hoping to get
maybe the
that
person who's
information.
facilitating the club
So until we
is
get
just
that
hanging on
information.
because they wanna keep the club alive. That's something I think the principals really need to look at, and that's something we should,
Until we get that information, we know we should
and
make
that's
a
my
decision.
opinion.
So then it would, so
Right,
then
that's
what?
what we talked about last time. Let's find that information.
All right, maybe I'm getting lost in the 50 kids.
We've had this conversation.
So then are we gonna postpone this
You want
to,
an audit of all of the high school clubs?
and what does that
How often
consist
they
of?
meet and how many kids regularly attend? Is that what I'm?
I think we do the high school first,
Can't you
because
just
these two
contact
pertain to
each
the high school,
advisor?
and then we should do the
So,
rest
all
of the
right,
district as well.
so what are you guys are saying? So we're gonna come back in 2 weeks. We're gonna get an
It's done.
attendance report,
Yeah.
how often they run, and how many kids how many kids are serviced, like, what is that word?
On a regular basis.
Right, on a regular basis. So you are willing next week, or actually the next board meeting, to cut 2 clubs in placement of these?
If
Doesn't
there's
happen
some
this
kind
year.
of proof that, if the principals can come to us and say, hey, listen, this is something that, I'm not willing to cut it immediately, it's obviously paid for the year, but it may be something that we can consider or look at, say, that these 2 clubs are
So
gonna come
you
off the
don't wanna
roster
cut the
next
2
year.
clubs, but you don't wanna service these clubs for the remaining of the 6 months. So then we're back to square one again.
Because if we do these for this, for the
It's
next
about
6
doing
months,
things
we're gonna
right.
be doing it.
It's not about putting a Band-Aid on it because of 50 kids, it's about doing it right. We're constantly spending money and just going, yeah, let's add this, let's add that. I know it's $2,200, we're like, oh, it's only $2,200. But every time you add $2,200, it's $2,200 forever.
So then it leads back to going back at 140 or 125.
Possibly, maybe next
And
year.
then we'll have to
And that's,
work on
that's
the
in the
budget for
budget
that.
cycle.
And
And that's what
that's something
that
we
needs
work
to be discussed in the budget cycle with everybody.
I understand we have to cut back in certain areas, but I don't wanna cut
We
back on our
can't
kids.
have 125 and then go to 140.
I agree.
Just
That's why we
expect
want
it to
I
be-
don't wanna cut back on our kids, so I'm having a little bit of an issue with that. I'm not
Okay,
against
well,
cutting
you know
back
what,
on
but
certain
we have
things.
to move on. There are 4 people here that said one thing.
All right, so then we'll table this until next meeting. All right, moving over to substitute salaries.
As you already know, we, along with most of the districts on the island, are having pretty significant difficulty attracting substitutes, especially substitute teachers. Our superintendent and I met with Mr. Felicio a couple of weeks ago, and was brainstorming, and this is part of the result of that. We came up with a couple of conclusions. First of which is, we know that because we're using the internet now for selection of substitutes, what typically can happen is a particular teacher will select us on a Monday and then deselect us on a Wednesday, realizing that another district is paying $15 to $20 more per diem. So one of the things we thought we might do is to incentivize people staying with Connetquot. And we thought we could do that by coming up with a formula that gradually rewards teachers for the frequency of their coming to us. Right now, as you know, the per diem amount is $100. We thought, just as a scenario, if we raised it to 120 and gradually went up to 150, that could form the incentive that we're looking for. This, again, is just a scenario. You can hold these numbers or different numbers if you prefer. One of the other things we thought is, we know that for the most part, our retirees are not interested in coming back for $100 a day. If we pay them $150 a day, we feel that we're tapping a very rich resource of knowledgeable people who have substantial experience, and we think that might help. One of the things to put this in perspective is, even with an attendance rate of staff of between 90 and 92%, that still is about 60 teachers we have to cover on any given day. It's a substantial amount of money, and what we're looking to do is to be at a competitive advantage rather than a disadvantage. And we think that this may be worthy of consideration. The next slide talks about not the per diem, the occasional per diem, but the person who's a longer-term sub. The distinction between this and the first slide is these are people who substitute for the same teacher over a given period of time. So we thought, consistent with our current practice, we go from 100 to 120, and then after 60 days, as we do now, we put them on contract. I don't know how you feel about this, but we feel that this will certainly help us competitively.
What's the contract?
Contract is steps out.
What is a long-term sub getting now?
Long-term sub is...
That's your proposal, what are they getting now?
They're currently getting $100 to start, and gradually goes to 130, 150, and then on contract after 60 days. So what we're doing is we're bumping up the starting rate.
But a long-term sub, would love to be a long-term sub in this district and get that money after 60 days. So why change that part?
Well, you can't have a regular sub get in at 120 and have the long-term sub start at 100.
I thought we were at 110.
Right now, we're at 100.
These are those two are proposals.
Now, those are proposals, but if you're gonna change the daily sub, you can't have the long-term person working for less.
You gotta keep both subs the
No one's
same.
gonna want a long-term sub.
Oh, so,
Keep both sub salaries the same.
well, I mean, I like some of the ideas based on, we have the retiree, makes sense, all the sense in the world, because they will teach. Most of these subs, I don't know how much they teach, I don't know how long, you know, if they're on the class in one day. What about having TAs? What about, I don't know, you know, if you're not talking long term, can the TA read what's left? You know, for them to read, if the teachers, what do you call it, when you have or whatever worksheet for the day?
A ditto.
Huh? Sub-plans, so they have sub-plans all the time?
Those are concepts we did discuss. We thought maybe initially we'd like to see if this gets us to where we need to be, and if not, we can discuss additional alternatives for you.
But I also heard when this conversation initially started that what we're doing is giving a pay raise to the subs that are here. So, and there's no guarantee that we're going to get more subs. This is what I heard.
Right, and what we're looking to do, and that's a very valid counterpoint, what we're looking to do is to make us at a competitive advantage vis-a-vis the other districts. And I swear that that's going to happen again.
So we're going to jump from 100 to 120 just for 20 days. 20 days.
With the attraction being, if you stay with us, you'll get more.
I'm in favor of raising the sub pay. We definitely have to raise it. I'm not sure per diem compared to long term. You almost would think that if you're hired long term, you should get paid a little more than per diem.
We're certainly up to that.
I'm not in favor of having retired teachers get paid $150. Just because it's, again, like 2 months ago, we heard the public, and some of the problems in this district was that subs felt like they weren't treated in a respectful way, and that's why we're losing some subs. If you have someone with a master's degree, they might have teaching experience, they start subbing here and they're going to get paid $120, and then they're going to find out you're paying another sub 150, right away you're creating that kind of, I'm not, maybe animosity where it's unfair. To me, you should just pay, whatever you're gonna pay, you pay to everyone.
No disrespect, Craig, but this might be a conflict of interest because of your wife having a sub position and just want to ensure that it's, shouldn't be a conflict.
No, she's not something.
Okay, so speak away.
Anyway, I spoke to as many teachers as I could. I spoke to retired teachers. I spoke to,
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
and the teachers that I spoke to, most of them, if they sub in the school district that they retired from because they're comfortable. When I spoke to a teacher that lives right here, right down the road from Idlehour, she subs in West Babylon. I said, if Connetquot raised their pay to 150, would you sub there? She said, no. I like working in West Babylon because that's, and she, West Babylon only pays 110. But she wouldn't, because she's comfortable. And I spoke to a couple of other retired teachers that wouldn't change their mind.
So you don't think that the 150 would attract,
if you're gonna pay 150, pay them all 150.
No, I don't know. I mean,
Is there a dollar sign on it?
I have done a home analysis, budget comes to $300,000.
With just the subs that we currently have in place.
Right.
At what price? What figure?
Moving through the system like that.
Sure, for $300,000 more to get.
Additionally. And that's not encumbering more for more subs coming here. That's just for the subs that we had in place last year.
at what point, so on a weekly basis, what would be your shortage? Like
So how long is what's the traditional longevity of a sub in the district for 20 days? I mean, 20 days in 50 classrooms, or 20 days in a classroom?
3 days every day in any classroom.
So if the sub's here after 20 days, she gets $120.
No, it goes up. 130 plus 130.
130. You know, be generous from 100 to 120. I didn't see moving, I thought it was 110, so.
That's 100.
We're probably the lowest paid, one of the lowest paid districts on Long Island. And that's why we're having a difficult time finding subs.
Do you think that's the reason?
I
Everyone
think it's
says,
a big reason, sure.
you think so?
Connetquot pays $100.
These kids have to pay back their school loans.
I don't have any knowledge of that. I mean, I would imagine for kids getting out of college, money is an issue, so I would think that.
So Nick, what are you
But
getting?
everybody's different.
So Nick, what are they getting paid in your district?
I believe right now they are at
They get hazard pay there.
no, it's actually not that high, 119.
119. And credit?
Yeah, somewhere around there, it's in the
Paying your
teens.
district?
My district, it's in the teens. They were paying 90, they just went up to 110.
So we're gonna beat them all. You got.
No, we're not gonna beat them all. The average, I believe, is 125. That's average.
You showed us the average already last time, you showed us the average last time. It was
The
like
average in
120.
Fall Park is 125.
Your school is what?
122, 123.
You're, but not to go to 145.
So then
No, that was the idea of enticing people to want to stay. Because we felt that, we're looking at the record, we didn't have a lot of people that
Yeah,
stayed,
exactly.
that continued to come back. They came back 7 days, 8 days, but they didn't continually come back.
Right, so the incentive to
We
stay.
had a lot of people that didn't really regularly frequent the district. We were trying to entice them to
So
stay
what
by
you're saying
offering
is
to
it's
increase over time. A sliding scale.
So they don't have that many.
No.
So Bob, let me ask you a question.
But
So
districts are
now,
going to this. Green Village just did this. Sayville has a sliding scale. It jumps faster than this jumps. But this is what districts are doing to entice substitutes. This is not out of the norm.
Is it that bad out there?
Nobody can get subs right now. It's very difficult.
So-
We're hoping this changes that.
so Bob, would this go back to September, like say somebody left off at 145, they start in September at 145? Or we go back to the 120?
Right.
So we go back to 120 and then during the year they escalate to the 145?
Well, right now, we do have the different after a certain number of days.
You have a sub-percentage.
Yeah, that's all.
Yeah, that's a lead. Yeah, that's a lead.
Bob, I know you mentioned that these two things we're talking about, the sliding scale, these were some of the things we already talked about. the CTA have any additional suggestions that you guys discussed, or?
Basically, conceptually, there was a question of should we want to talk about the issue of TAs. You mentioned the issue of perhaps student teachers coming in to help us, are forming part of a consortium to train a select number of people to help us out.
Or any of those?
But we thought, again, initially, let's see what kind of results we get with this. Right now, we don't take non-certified teachers. This question taking someone with baccalaureate in a different discipline and me bringing them on with a college degree. That we haven't done in a while. What we want to do is keep the standard that we have now if at all possible.
But, no, I understand that. I was just wondering if, obviously we've made an effort to try to include all parties in the decisions that we're trying to make. I was wondering if there was input that was different from what we had discussed.
Not different. Again, this was just brainstorming, trying to maximize
the other people
the
involved.
personnel that we can get. As I say now, we have to get 55 to 60 people on a given day. That's really rough.
So then why can't we do the approach of 125, see how long, you could start there, 125, you were increasing it $25.
Yeah, again,
And
this
then,
is
you know,
carved in
and then
stone.
if that
It's
doesn't
simply a
work, then you
scenario.
could go to something like a scale. That's another idea, see the 125, you'll get some bites, and then go to scale. I don't know if I'm comfortable offering this right away.
What if you stay with your arm for scale?
At 100 to the scale?
Right, for the scale for coming back to days. Then you haven't changed anything. You've just tried to entice
So, but then
the
if you
increase
do
of
it-
staying in the district.
So we're starting at 100, so then your top would be 150.
No, maybe it drops to 135, 140, but
I would be
whatever.
okay with something
But
like
maybe we
that.
start at, this way we see who really wants to come back, and
Is
then
it
if we see that we have this group of teachers subs over the next couple of years want to come back,
I
then we
would
can
do
think
scale
about
starting at
increasing it
100.
to reward them for being a part of our district in the future.
Just my opinion. This is something that I don't like, being in the teaching field. My colleagues, people in the area, they say, Connetquot, why would I want to go to Connetquot? They only pay $100. Before they even paid less. It's embarrassing. I don't like
Well,
that.
competitive,
But I'm just saying, it's my opinion.
But
I
we're
get them
competitive
back,
with the district you're coming from.
agree, and it's like, why is Connetquot the lowest paid? I don't want Connetquot to be the lowest paid. That's embarrassing.
We split the difference. We go
$100
Yeah, but
is,
Sable is 110, so
it's
when
insulting to a professional,
is 110, so we're
professional
not
with
that
a
off
master's
base.
degree.
What if we do
Sable
like
is
110
110,
in the slides?
we're not that off.
What if we up 110 in the slides? We don't go,
I'll go for that.
we don't go so crazy to start. We see what the reaction is. We can always up it more next year.
I'm okay with 110 starting.
We see what kind of feedback we get, who comes in, and whether those people continue to come
I
back
would start to scale
with
up.
the increase.
Nick, while we're doing the 110, I'd also like to look at, look at other avenues also that they need to stuff. A lot of parents are home, they're teachers, but they never taught.
Parents without a degree?
No, they have a degree, and they have a
I have a
degree.
teaching degree? I have a teaching degree?
I don't know. But there are plenty out there that have degrees that are probably very good
It makes me
teachers.
think they don't want to
That
teach.
can degree. There are different avenues that maybe, we would get more people, because there's no guarantee we're gonna get more people this way. I'll go with Nick with the 110, starting at 110, but I also think at the same time we're doing that, we'll watch to see who's coming in, and look at other avenues. You can get very good qualified people that are probably excellent teachers in the classroom, if they're following the guidelines. And they have a week's worth of training, like you had mentioned, one of your ideas. Oh, it was brilliant.
That was actually something I suggested.
I thought that was,
I suggested some type
Okay,
of
all
workshop to maybe entice people.
okay.
So I don't want to disappoint you.
That sounds good.
Okay, so we're looking at this sliding scale starting at 110 and going up $10 less each one, so that at day 60, it's 140.
Then we only raised it 5. I think we should keep the same increments. So 10, then 5, 5, 5.
What do you
So
say?
you wind up at
110, 120,
110,
130?
120, 125, 130, 135, 140.
You finish at 140.
At 60 days. That's
Right.
all. Okay.
that rewards the person for coming back. You just basically cutting $10 out of it. So you
All right,
save
so
them.
we have to take a motion and a vote on this.
No, it's later.
Oh, it's later?
Right, just a discussion still.
Oh, okay, gotcha,
That's
okay.
what we're gonna have to amend, that's it. Okay, all right.
All right, so we're moving over to public participation.
Oh, wait, should we do the custodial section?
Yes, we have one more slide.
Oh, I'm sorry, Bob, I'm sorry.
We're having the same problem with custodians that we're having with teachers. This is a more modest proposal. John Allen was good enough to survey some of the surrounding districts. We're paying $9.75 an hour. The average amount of the surrounding districts is $14.30. What the disadvantage is right now, again, we have insufficiency of custodial subs because the rate is so low. And it's causing us an increase in overtime because what we're doing to make up for that is we're paying our full-time people an additional half day to do the cleaning of the classrooms after hours. So John has proposed, and I fully support, something more modest that we go from $9.75 to $12 an hour. Not very close.
I'm good with that, I'm good with that. No argument there.
Why don't we go 14:30?
You made a recommendation for 12. You just cut a club that you don't want to spend, and you want to spend $2 more? Well, you didn't want to approve a club, so I'm not going to, we're going to
I
spend.
didn't cut a club, no, I didn't say that.
Well, yeah, we didn't approve a club.
Yeah, but this is something that's going on every day. This is something that's showing respect.
Right,
That's what it's
well,
showing.
we'll get it started at 12.
It's the average, just being the average. I would like to be the top.
Well, that is a revolving door that will never close, so. All right, so I'm going to take a motion for $12 an hour on a substitute. Oh, it's going up, okay, so we're going to, okay, so it's added on, right?
All right, we're at,
All right, anything else? Oh, I'm sorry about earlier.
Budget question, can I ask that now? When we look at the budget and we look at our class sizes, and if we're getting $2 million, I don't know how much we're getting. Are we getting money back?
Well, there's,
$3.1 million?
Right.
that's a possibility. It looks like it's gonna happen. But, you know, getting back, it's just no longer having them taken away.
Yeah, we're not getting it back.
Okay, I was thinking of reducing class sizes if possible. If they're too high at kindergarten, first grade level, back to where they used to be. If possible, that's all.
Well, that's something to discuss at budget time.
Class size
That's
is
a budget
high,
time.
or our class size is
Some of them are,
high?
some of them
I
are.
don't think they are. I don't think they are.
especially not on the south end.
John Pearl, I thought was over, was over.
Comfort was a little bit high this year.
25 is high, oh, we used to have 17. And,
Oh, but 17 across the board. That's what the numbers are. The numbers are what the numbers are.
All right,
Happy with it.
all right, so we're
It's
moving
less
over.
than 17 compared to less than 25. In the same grade level, it's just in different sections of the village, because that's what they warrant. So,
Public comment?
yeah.
yeah, well, look at here, I wrote it down. I think it's 10 and it's
Okay, we're moving over to public participation.
You couldn't tell?
Step up to the podium. Address the board member president only. You may address one or more topics in the time allotted. Individuals, employees, parents, or children should not be identified by name, title, position, or grade, or building. For safety, please exit from the left or the right. That goes for second discussion as well. Mr. Policio.
Thank you. Good evening. Try to keep my focus directed this way.
Thank you.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you.
I just would, this whole issue with the clubs has been discussed amongst ourselves as well. I would just caution that in your decision making, that the number of kids involved doesn't necessarily make the point of what's more important. A club with 7, 8, or 9 kids, those 7, 8, or 9 kids is just as important as a club that might have 35 or 40. Our chess clubs in the past is usually relatively small, but for that small amount of kids that do that, that's their mix, that's their thing. You get just as much joy and positive experience out of that as our kids at 35 or 40. So portion. Regarding the sub, I just want to be clear, because I'm not sure if I was clear enough. The schedule you put up there, it is going to include 150 for retired teachers or it's not?
That's currently something they're gonna vote on.
Okay.
That hasn't been voted on yet.
Okay. The couple of comments were made, I think Greg made an interesting point. We just had this conversation today at my meeting about the sub situation. And a couple of things that came out that just might be something for you to think about. It was interesting to see the different input that I got from around my gig. One said that if you give $150 to retirees, those who are getting 100 are now 110 will go in. Okay, that they will be seen as very, very unfair disparity in the amount of money you're paying a retired teacher versus somebody who might have been here a year or 2 or 3 years already. That was one issue. The other issue that somebody mentioned, we didn't go into a lot of detail, was perhaps thinking of a scale, which I didn't think of when we met with Bob and Linda, based on the type of degree they have. Maybe a third-year college student at a certain level, person with a bachelor's getting a little bit more, person with a master's being paid for the education that they have. That was another issue. I know we talked about using 3rd and 4th year college kids that graduated Connetquot, having them come back. Obviously, the concern Bob and I had, I think, and then Lynn Hitton got after it. His eyes piled out of his head. My mouth fell open. Was about having them as subs at the high school. And we said, no, that won't work. But maybe using them at the elementary level. That was another comment. Other than that, I think with the subs, I did talk about a couple of other things. I think it's a complex issue. I think I'm concerned about one of the points Bob made right away. He stated, he said it again tonight, that teachers that on Wednesday you have them, Friday morning they're gone. And the basic reason is money. And I'm afraid, I'm with Greg on the fact, and we never spoke, but I believe in my information I sent to you, that I think you need to be the highest paid, so that problem that Bob seems to think is one of the biggest problems we have comes down to money. The way you solve the problem is you pay the money. That person going over to East Islip on Friday morning knows they're getting most at Connetquot are not going to go to. There might be the occasional one who just said, in your case, they're at West Fowler and they're happy. Okay, but I think in general, since that seems to be the issue, that issue will be wiped away if you pay. I don't know if 110 is going to make any difference, but that's just my feelings.
Thank you for the thought. Thank you very much, Tony.
Hi, I'm Scott Madison. I own Sunnation Solar, and I want to first quickly pay homage to Linda Adams. Linda came to me, and let's go to a happy place, everybody. Linda brought an idea at the end of last year to me to really incorporate special needs kids into business, and I'm compelling all of you to come to my office in Oakdale so you can meet one of those kids that is blossoming right now in a work environment. She's doing fantastic, and that is because you entertained the business community and brought those kids into it, so thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
And we should be doing more of it and more of it, and great also for Mr. Frank as well as involved in this effort too, but very cool. The other thing that I'm just sitting here is on the sub and the nurse pay, you got teachers that are making $100,000 a year plus pennies, and I pay my kid to operate, my stock kid, $14 an hour in my warehouse. So I think you guys got to realize that McDonald's kid is going to be making $15 an hour soon, and that's more than your teachers that are teaching our kids. I'm not okay with that. Third thing, and most important, is we talk about your antiquated HVAC system. You guys are a victim of a $90 million bond that went around 13 years ago or so, and the HVAC system that was designed had flaws from the very beginning. So, and I appreciate what you said about, I'm in the trade, so I appreciate what you said about putting Band-Aids on things, and certainly using school people for maintenance. Preventive maintenance is the key to everything. But your system is still, it's 30 years, you really got a 12, 13-year-old system that's 30 years old. That's what was designed and installed. I implore you to contact companies like Johnson Controls, I'm doing Sewanee School District with the rest, and they come in and reevaluate your entire system and do all these.
Johnson Controls is the one that put that in.
Okay,
Better not use them.
what's that?
You better not use them.
They're the ones that's why we're in the mess we're in.
Okay, so the rest are the one that I'm working with right now. This is them. But basically, what you were talking about with notification, this is, every one of you would be taxed as soon as that boiler went out. There's no, you don't need somebody to go and check the clean in the room. It's antiquated stuff, and it's no real cost to the district. What you need to do is kind of get into the 21st century. Energy efficiency, and what they do is they come and they install all this stuff, and they get that piece on the energy savings. So it's a no cost to you guys. But again, kudos for bringing that young lady into and thank you for coming and sharing.
Thank you for sharing.
That was perfect, so thank you.
But
I, for a living, work on continuity of business plans. I've stood here numerous times in the 8 years that my kids have been going through this district, and I've been the representative for Board of Ed, for Cherokee and RMS, and I've offered help. This is abominable, what happened this week. I think you handled it well at the time. I think I saw a lot of good things up there, but you used to have an emergency preparedness plan. You used to actually practice it. You used to do these things. When you put the centralized phone system in here, which, hello, I'm not an employee and I know it, where are the backup plain old telephone service lines? Where are the copper phone lines that back that up? And why doesn't every building have one? These are simple things that go in when you put in a voice over IP system. It's ridiculous that you don't have it. There's also a backup server that voice system runs off of. Where's the backup server that ran everything else in the district? The phone system should have been on it. Unbelievable. This is ridiculous. The fact that we should have somebody walking around taking temperatures in rooms, it's 8 years. I've heard this time and time again. We're going to fix this with this money that we have, and we're going to be able to remote into these from anywhere in the district and tell you what the temperature is in any room. It's not done yet. Where's the money going? Why isn't it?
I think you're talking about the next bond, because we only discovered this, how bad it was, what, 2 years ago?
I could call Mike Healy at home and ask him how many times we fixed this problem.
No. It really came to fruition. Actually, because the union kept complaining, and I went to the buildings and looked, and the place was a mess. And out of that came a bond. And that bond is they're gonna be
But it's not the first bond that was supposed to fix
Oh, no.
the HVAC system in the 8 years I've been sitting here.
This is the bond that's supposed to fix the high school problem.
No, and it can't be just
Coming up.
fixing the high school problem. We have to stop doing this piecemeal. We also have to stop taking the lowest bid. We can't keep sending it out to the lowest bidder. It has to be somebody that we can get to. Not the highest bidder, not the lowest bidder, somewhere in between that makes us feel comfortable for a change. The lowest bidder has given us crap for years now, and we keep having the same problems. We need to start running this school district like a business. We can't keep dumping money after bad. What else? I had 1,000 things. I didn't see where remediation plans for what was wrong with your emergency preparedness drills. Where was that? I didn't see that in your considerations, like when you were going to fix the things that you knew you should have had lined up already for an emergency that you didn't. So think about where you...
We have emergency preparedness plans for every contingency that could potentially go wrong.
Okay.
What had not happened at the high school yet this year was the practicing of it actively by students and teachers. However, those emergency preparedness plans have been in place and discussed with from our administrations down to our
I got it,
teams and
but
our
the
aides.
impression that we got from you was that nobody was really sure of everything that should have gone on. And there were a lot of things that I saw out there that could have been mitigated. And things that should have been acted on. And you all know, you've all had your debriefing, you've had your lessons learned plan. What's the remediation for the ideas that came up in your lessons learned? I didn't see that on your considerations, and it should be added.
When was the dismissal? When did the buses roll?
10 a.m.
When could they have rolled?
10
a.m.
10 a.m.
So what could we?
So that's what I'm trying to, I'd like you to give an example of what you're referring to, because by looking at the way that laid out, we could have gotten the buses there earlier.
I thought the plan overall was good. I think there were a lot of things that were missed.
We need to, can you pick out one particular thing?
John, what
And you're
happened?
saying there's a lot, so you just.
Manual checking of boilers is.
What happened to
crazy.
yours?
The manual temperatures of each of the classrooms, not knowing that the phone system is gonna go down here when the electricity goes down here. Those are things that we should have known, it should have been in the plan, and you should have had a backup plan for.
And they had the generator come over here and bring the system back up again.
But the generator wasn't here. You
Because
didn't
the
know that the
generator is
phone
portable
system.
that moves through the district, so it's.
Nobody knew the phone system ran out of this building.
We did. Our director of technology, we all knew that the phone system ran through the building.
In the presentation just now, I heard, we didn't even realize the phone system ran out of this building.
The superintendent did recognize that she may not have known that the phone system ran through this building, but our director of technology knew that the phone
But
system.
we did have
We did have redundancies built into
I
it.
think within
And
10
within
minutes.
10 minutes.
Have to practice these
Within 10 minutes, I think of the phone lines going down, wasn't it portable service here within 10
We
minutes?
have POTS lines in each of our buildings that have direct lines. So we do have copper lines in every one of our buildings that do have outside phone capability as well as dialing in.
Okay.
We do have backups for our phone
But that
system.
should have been then sent out to the district. There are emergency backup lines in case we need to get any emergency, any other emergency.
Within 10 minutes, we had it
These
restored.
are things that should be gone over when you're doing a presentation like this. You need to let them know, we considered this, we went through this, we got this, to show the other good things.
So you're
that went
saying,
on.
was this plan, the way you're coming up is like this plan was flawed, and from what I'm seeing, I
No,
think everything.
the tone of going
you were-
over it was.
But you said there's a lot of things that was wrong with this, and I'm really gonna hear what in particular. 10 minutes, the phones were ported, when the generator came over with the, so.
I'm gonna say, you know what, the truth is, you're absolutely correct. When we knew that it was going to be taken offline, there should have been these are the things that are gonna go offline when we go offline. But I'm looking around the room, and the majority of the administrators in this room have been here a year and a half or less.
I know,
And
I
so
get that.
part of that is just not knowing every intricate part of the district. So I'm taking that,
So our
I'm totally
tests-
accepting that.
Our tests have to be a lot better.
You're right,
And
not disagreeing whatsoever.
absolutely, and the tone of the way it was presented, beautifully, but was almost defensive. So it made me think that you guys found a lot more stuff that you were really worried about. And it's absolutely sounded like, what else did we not do? And there are things that absolutely should be automated, should be documented. And I mean, I thought, I'm waiting to see who's behind me, but I thought it went off well, but I think there were a lot of things that could be missed. And knowing that there's the POTS lines, address it. Address it out to the community, say, you know, there are emergency backups in every building, so no building is out of phone service. That was,
Is there anything else you want to address, because your time is running out?
What happened to the capital reserve fund? We used to have money in the capital reserve fund that could only be transferred to capital projects. And I saw there was a line item to build a capital reserve fund. Is that build back up from zero or build back up from a?
There is a reserve right now for the 2014 bond, but as we have always with our multi-year planning, it's time to think about planning for the next bond.
And capital reserve is different than a bond.
Capital reserves used to fund that portion of the capital project which is not in here.
Right.
So that one still exists, the
Okay.
last one.
Okay.
And once those projects are finally approved, which is any day now, on the man's desk now, so you're next. Then that money will be used for the initial costs, and then after that, you start borrowing.
Okay.
And that's the annual portion. That's
Just the way it sounded was there was nothing there, so.
But no, this is like, you know, of course, we're thinking ahead, we've typically done
Right,
this
we used to have
in the
budget
district.
planning and, you know, every year.
We still have that, so, you know, this kind of feeds into that whole natural process that we have of our fiscal planning for big capital projects, not maintenance, but the big stuff that we ran into some of the issues here, we have boilers.
Right, the big
that
issues
need
that
to be
came out, should
replaced.
be able to get to the, all the capital accounts, okay.
generator hookups at the elementaries, you know, there are things, yeah. And can you tell me about the alarm again, John? We do have an alarm from the boilers in the high school. What happened with that?
There's multiple small water alarms, temperature alarms. We also have a selector switch that allows the boilers to operate from natural gas to oil. Because of the volume of natural gas and the size of the pipe coming into the high school, we have an agreement with National Grid called interruptible service, which means National Grid, at their discretion, if they feel like there's too large of a natural gas demand, can switch us over to oil. So they send a signal out and it automatically switches the boilers over. It's not a bad thing for the district because when we get into those really cold times, oil burns hotter than natural gas, so it allows the district, the buildings to come up to temperature a lot quicker and easier anyway. So it's not a bad thing. But that selector switch got hung up in the middle position. When it got hung up in the middle position, it's not calling for oil, it's not calling for gas, and there isn't an alarm for that component of it. It's almost as though we've turned the boiler off and the boiler doesn't recognize that it should be in alarm mode. It's something we can address moving forward, and we can actually activate us when we turn the boiler on. We can activate a switch just like a wired in and put it in place. But that's why we didn't get an alarm in that case.
But normally we would.
Yeah, for a lot of the other problems, I've never heard of not getting an alarm. That was new to me.
So it was a perfect storm. Otherwise, we'd have an alarm.
Yeah.
Thank you.
More remote monitoring is important, and less people walking around checking, saying, oh, look. So,
And normally we'd have that.
thank you.
Thank you. Hello, Ed.
Evidently, we have some projects with Albany has approved for Albany. Does that cover some of the failures that we had over the last week? Do we have a generator in there?
No.
No. Okay, do we have the disconnects to each building in there?
No.
No. Okay. Okay, answer my question. I have some questions for Ms. Allen. The wiring that failed.
Yes.
Evidently that was ours for some reason.
Yes, it was on a section from the transformer up on the street at 6 North where it comes into the transformer at this building.
It came from our transformer.
It was between PSE&G's transformer at the street, and from there it goes underground and onto our property, and it was on our property.
Okay, so it already was brought down from 5 to 7,000 volts to 440.
On that leg, it was exactly 440.
So that's all for me. Right. Is there, underground wiring has its advantages and disadvantages. Any way of abandoning the underground trough and going overhead?
Because it only just happened last week, the only person I've been in contact with as of this point is the electrical contractor that helped us solve our problems in immediate repairs. We're going to get a couple different vendors in here, a couple different ideas as to what the cost effectiveness of doing one or the other is.
Okay, so there's a chance we can go the overhead roof, because underground water infiltration probably the old insulation. And what I saw from the picture of the wiring, it also looks like an overload. I speak from experience. I was an electrical engineer for New York City Transit Authority. I know a lot about underground wiring. Okay, so that's...
You're hired.
Be the consultant.
You're hired.
I'm hired.
We can't pay you, Ed, but we'll take your
That's
service.
$9.75 and a 14 per hour.
Ed, where were you that day? Where were you that day?
Where was I?
Yes.
Well, he did good. $9.75 an hour. He did good, and I go by his recommendations. It's just unfortunate, he's only been here about a year. Okay, so, and you've inherited 40 years of no periodic maintenance and an aging infrastructure, but now we're going to hold your feet to the fire. As far as telephone systems go, even when I ran 4 factory buildings, the telephone systems I ran through something called UPS. It's called uninterruptible power supply. voltage generated for the phones was actually coming from batteries. And that's what you do if you want an uninterruptible source, if you can't have your computer mainframe go down. And there's no reason why a phone system can't be run this way. Matter of fact, you don't even know when there's a failure because it's running off the batteries. And what happens is when there is power available, the batteries are being charged or running off the PSC and G mains until they change their name. So that's another way of getting around having phone systems all the time.
And that's one of the one, as we talk about areas that we found as weaknesses, that was one of the weaknesses. Is that our battery backup. Our battery backup for our phone system didn't work. So we have a new one on order, and we expect that in. So we will have an uninterrupted power supply.
If you learn from your mistakes, that's good. If you repeat the mistake, that's not good.
That's exactly it. I thought by the way their plan was, 10 minutes, they had the phones restored. I think for what the cards they were dealt, I think they did the right thing. And of course, they're going to go back in.
I don't know how you even ran fast enough. I used to maintain...
He has long legs.
I mean, after I stopped working for the city of New York, I went into private industry and I made 4 very large buildings. And sometimes I didn't get much.
You know what, I will honestly say, Linda made a point of thanking the maintenance staff. I am so impressed by what they bring to the table on a daily basis. Their ability to troubleshoot anything under the sun is overwhelming. It is
I just have one more comment.
All right, make it quick, because I'm going to get shot. I gave you a little more time.
You can't continually work a man overtime. And the reason for that is they get tired.
Yeah.
And when they get tired, they
sloppy.
make a mistake that they normally would never do when they were awake, and they get hurt.
Okay, I
That's
want to
why you
second
need
that.
extra
Did you hear
personnel.
that?
Yes, no.
Okay? Thank you.
Overtime's good, but blood money's
Thank you, Ed. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you, thank you.
Eileen, you are my last speaker for this portion.
All
right.
Are you standing up, Paul?
I will. There's another question.
I am.
I just thought they were sitting in chairs as we went over the 30 minutes.
We're already over 30. Would you mind waiting a second? I'll
Whatever
put
you
you in
want.
first.
That's fine. Happy New Year, everyone.
Happy New Year.
I just want to talk about a couple things. I checked all our policies. I spoke to our policy committee, which I believe is Leah and Nick, right? You have that right? Okay. But I did check through all the policies, and they're not in our district policies. But I found out 2 things. One, under the circumstances that I found myself in, my child was in a half-year class. I'll just speak about any child. If you're in a half-year class, you can have 14 absences. She had 8 due to some unforeseen circumstances. It went quickly up to 11, and she was called down and was told that if it gets to 14, she would lose a letter grade. I found that a little, and again, I didn't find it in our policy, so I don't know if it's just a high school policy. So I think that's something that we need to look into. I searched the policies with a fine-tooth comb today.
So was it the
Say that again, Eileen. So after 14 days, she loses 11.
In a half-year
she loses
class,
credit.
after 28 in a full year, you would lose.
No, but let's go back to you. What do you mean by you lose a letter credit?
Well, that's what I'm saying. I got a phone call saying that if we got up to 14 days of absence, you could lose a letter grade.
So meaning from an A to a B?
Right, or if you're a C student, to a D.
I know what
Wait
you're
a second,
saying.
now there's an appeals process, but then again, so I searched through everywhere. Hold on, let me finish. I couldn't find an appeals process. Step 1, you do this, step 2, you do this. So the appeals process is not known to parents. First of all, I don't think that policy is a good policy. If someone gets mono, if a husband has a heart attack, if there's things like that happened, that's silly. You're punishing a straight A student, or you're punishing even an average student who had an unforeseen circumstance whose parents, maybe there was a death in the family. Do you think that the parent is going to want to say, okay, I'm going to put the funeral off so I can go appeal this process so that my kid doesn't get this grade lowered? So I think that's something that we need to look at.
Can we address that portion?
Hold on 1 second. And again, I didn't find it in these policies. It may be just a school thing. So are there school policies? My question is, are school policies different from our whole district policies? How do parents know?
They're not called policies. They're not called policies. They're their procedure.
Well, when I
There
read
is
the
a book.
football, it was about our school policy is to drop the letter grades. So
But,
then the verbiage is.
they used the wrong verbiage.
Okay.
It was actually done in the high school. It was done under Greg Merther, right?
Yes.
And he put this together where kids, they're out so many days. Out being so many days, it's a
You can't punish a kid for something that happens.
Eileen, the one thing I want to address that I'm having a little, I definitely was investigating is dropping the score. Obviously, in certain circumstances, you can get, you can get the, obviously you go to the
Appeals process, but again,
you go to
I have
appeals
no
process,
idea
you'll
what the
get
appeals
dismissed.
process is, and if I'm going through a funeral, or I'm spending a month at the hospital, or the child is sick.
Well, Linda,
I'm not gonna stop to go.
well, Linda will address that portion of it, but I had a big concern, like, so your child's an A goes down to a B.
Yeah, I found that.
I don't believe that, I mean, I was on site-based
That's
last
what
year, I know you lost credit, but you didn't lose.
But again, and you can lose the credit for the entire course year, the entire course.
That's the way that is currently written. That procedure at the high school is currently written. I know that site-based was looking at that over the course of the year.
Policy committee needs to look at, because I think that's really punishing.
It's a school practice.
Okay, well, that's something that we need to
And I
look
know
at
that,
at school.
as
Because I think you're punishing children for
site-based
unforeseen.
is reviewing that practice.
I understand the premise, I understand maybe there were children that work in night class or whatever, so I understand the premise, but when you look at it in an all-encompassing way, I don't think it's good practice.
But we need to be student-centered.
Right, so and more encouraging to students, that's really discouraging.
Next item. Next item.
No, so what is the underlying reason behind, what is the underlying reason behind the purpose of the intent of why that was put in place? Was it put in place because we had excess kids cutting? Was it put in place because if that's the case, then the whole purpose of the appeals process is to allow a child who might have had a death in the family or, but that process doesn't have to happen at that time. That process can happen. Then you need to look at the appeals process and specifically possibly even list certain things that would absolutely qualify. Maybe, a death in the family or whatever. I definitely need to look at it more specifically, but I don't know if that policy should be eliminated from.
I'm not saying it, I said it
We're not
should be looked
policy,
at.
procedure.
It should be looked at because right now it's very discouraging to all kids. If you're an A student and you're out a certain amount of time and you're making up your work and then you.
Parents and kids should know though.
Right, and there should be, the
that
practice
there
should be very
are
clearly written,
circumstances
that's my
that
point.
that would
So that was the
eliminate
first
them
thing.
from that.
The second thing was Mylan and I were at the PTA meeting last night, and we also found another practice policy, not sure, I couldn't find it again in our policies, about the weighted averages. And we are punishing a child if they do not take an AP test at the end of an AP class. Their weighted average.
Actually, I'm so glad you brought that up, because I was gonna have you, Dean, when you have your reports, to actually get, because it was gonna be my question as well, if you can address,
So what we
Eileen's.
found out last night was that it's weighted right now is you take the AP course and the AP test. If your average is now weighted at 1.1. If you take the AP course and you don't take the test, it's weighted at 1.05. And again, we thought, and Mylan and I kind of agreed on this, that's at the PTA meeting. If a child doesn't take the test, maybe it's financial. I mean, I understand this waivers, but maybe they had none on the day of the test. Maybe something happened. Now they're being penalized for taking an AP class, but not the test.
Well, I think the other,
So I think that's something we also need to look at and find out why that was put into place and.
Eileen, I think the other contributing factor too is a lot of kids won't take it because if they, like, in my circumstance, 100 on the Regents, 99 on the class. If they do get, say, a 2 and below.
Right, that was the other thing.
Then it's cause for an inflated grade. So then, then that 99 in that class won't have as much weight because they're only scoring a 2 on the test. So I think that was
sometimes it
why.
behooves the child to not take the test. So I think that's another practice, procedure, policy, whatever verbiage you want to call it, that should be looked into too. Again, I think we're punishing a child.
Can you address what the changes are with the AP? Because I think we were having a little confusion with that.
Yeah.
One of the concerns from the high school is that we had a lot of students who were taking AP classes, not sitting for the AP exams. And based upon certain protocols with regards to based upon certain protocols with school, who's the company, the
College Board?
College Board. There is some regulations and some language in there with regards to gaining AP credit when you don't sit for the exam. So I know that was something the high school was looking to address. I can put something together for the next meeting so we can.
I'd like to know a little bit more about that, because right now it looks like you're punishing a child that is an accelerated child. You're punishing them for not taking the exam.
The truth is the College Board will not allow a course to put on a child's transcript with AP designation if they do not sit for the AP exam.
Right.
That's College Board's policy.
So in essence.
But their weighted average that we do here in Connetquot
is internal.
Could still be 1.1 instead of 1.05.
Yeah, that's an internal decision we make.
Right,
But
so
College Board is
that's
very
what I'm saying.
strict.
Just bringing that up for you to look at. I knew that about that.
Okay.
But in essence, aren't we incentivizing the point of taking the test by doing what we have in place with 1.1 and 1.05? And if we change that and make it the same, we are almost discrediting what the College Board is saying, that you have to sit for the test in order to
The College
get
Board
AP
already
credit.
tells you if you don't sit for the test, you don't get the AP
I understand
designation.
that. So we're now taking the College Board's recommendation of their class and we're dumbing it down, to me, in my
And I think that's what the high schools,
And that's-
practices. They're looking to change that this year to be more in line with what you're talking about. That it is a class. We do expect you to sit for the
Right,
exam.
I would expect you to sit for the exam if you're taking the
But again,
And that's the
there
intention.
should be then something, if a child can't sit for the exam on the day that's taken, because what I understand is, there's only certain days that you can take that exam. If there's an emergency or something, the child is still gonna be penalized for something that was beyond their control. So
Yeah.
that has to be looked at. That's my
The other-
overall thing.
The other question I had too is that somebody said that the test doesn't even count. So you have your kids sitting for a test, wasn't it a question if it didn't count in certain circumstances?
Right.
It can't count in a final average because we don't get that grade.
Right,
But
until the summer.
they're saying about colleges, or, you know.
That's very
The colleges
individualized
don't
by
even look
different
at that.
colleges. It depends, because the
Some of
college
them-
my daughter's looking at, she pulled up the APs that she wants to take next year as a senior and said, should I take AP US or should I take AP Comparative Government? So she went on the website, and she looked at the college, and she said, ooh, they don't even take Comparative Government, they take US. So that's the course I want to sign up for. But that's very individualized by the different colleges.
Right.
And how they take those credits are also individualized by the
Right.
colleges.
But I'm
Because
just
that's
talking
what
about
they rate and what they
Connetquot's
take for
policy
major
in
credit,
general,
minor
and I just
credit.
think we need to put in some safeguards for special circumstances. But again, if I didn't have my own special circumstance or been in this, I may not have even known about something like this. So, that was that. The other thing, you guys were talking about discussions on clubs that were not done in public. Was that done like before meetings? You guys are always here before us.
It was just brought to our attention.
It was brought to our
before
attention,
we
there's no
at some
formal
point. It wasn't,
discussion.
it was informal, it wasn't an executive session, it was before, one of the things was brought to our attention that the clubs were.
There was no formal discussion on it.
Well, there was also something posted on the BOE site, of which I am an admin, and it was talking about how we have a lot of executive sessions that may not actually be executive sessions. And one of the questions I've always brought up was the consent agenda. How the items are, you guys all know about the items, but we only see A through I. I mean, if somebody goes in and looks on the agenda, but in the public meeting, we hear A through I, or 1 through 17, whatever it is. And the discussion is maybe on 1 if somebody had a real question. So my question is, when do you guys talk about these things? Or you just go about it?
We look at the agenda like you do on a Friday afternoon, and we discuss it right
Which it
in front of
wasn't
you.
on Friday, by the way.
Well, you know what I'm saying, there would be on a Friday
Yeah,
afternoon,
grab a
we
question,
individually
yes.
look at it, and then when we have questions, it's our
Okay,
duty
but
to have
when
it
you guys do
public.
discuss it, just from the perspective of the,
We don't
when you
discuss
have
it.
a question of,
Question, yeah.
from the perspective of the audience, and I've seen it several times, and obviously in my video, so you've seen it. It sometimes seems like you guys have already talked about the questions that you're gonna bring up. So I just wanted to say that I did write to Robert Freeman about that, and he did respond, and I'll make that available to you. I'm out of time, so I can't talk about it now, and I'll talk about it at the next one. But really quick, Matt dropped off his he couldn't stay. He dropped off his recommendations for the BAC. So I want to give that to you. You can distribute it out. Thank you.
How was your husband?
Was it? You know, day by day, gets better every day. So he's alive. That's the best I can ask for, right? Thank you.
He kicked you out, that's why you're here.
Yeah. Well, my mother made him come back down here. She said, you married her, you're stuck with us, so.
All right, so moving over to personnel matters. Schedule 1, resignation, termination, leaves of absence.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor? Moving on to schedule 2, appointments, 10-year salary change. And then we also,
Yeah, we have
as
questions.
amended and wait, I have to say this, as amended and discussed during presentation.
Which means,
Change to the substitute rate.
so I got 110.
To 140 and
120, 125, 130.
Right.
That's what we're voting on.
That's what you're doing.
You guys, he said, they make a suggestion of going to 110.
Right. Not doing it.
We haven't changed the entire results.
He didn't even discuss retirees, it's just
willing to discuss that further, they can change.
I can't hear you guys. Can you turn on the microphone?
Do you want to table this another week? So you're feeling very uncomfortable with this? What?
Decision.
We're making a decision or we're tabling?
What were you talking about?
We're talking about the sub rates.
Sub-rates.
We are,
Not,
the subs are, the subs are
I
on the
just
table.
don't think we're going to, at that rate that you're doing, you're not gonna make a change.
You know what, we have
See
to
what
start
happens.
somewhere. You know what, we have
You
to
can always
start
increase
somewhere.
it.
I don't want to give out my highest thing without trying, it's a negotiation thing. So I'm gonna throw out my highest 150, and if we don't get anything on that, I'm throwing out another fishing line, so let's start somewhere. This is a good place to start. That's my opinion.
That's the way I feel. I think we have to increase it towards the end of the year or
I
next
wanna
year.
give you my best
And
right
then we'll go
now.
down that road. We gotta start somewhere and see what happens.
Exactly.
110.
So Ted, your feelings on this, are we gonna move forward?
110, sliding scales, about 140.
Okay, exactly what we agreed on. Lee?
Yep.
Okay, so Nick?
I'm fine with that at this point.
Craig?
I think we'll have to revisit and see what the numbers
So
are.
Craig
If
is
we
saying
increase
no, so
people-
Craig is bowing out. So we have the four, we have four, we have to pull that one then.
What are we doing with it? No.
Just vote.
Just vote. It'll be
All right,
4-1.
so- Okay, so it's 4-1 on that.
But we're still gonna revisit later on.
We will.
At the end of the year, we gotta see if it helped or it didn't help.
All right, so I'm gonna take a motion.
But before we vote, is the retired teachers out
We
of
can
here?
visit it again.
Just a regular,
That's
regular
separate.
sub rates.
This is just the regular sub rate.
Right,
We're not
regular
talking about
sub
the retired
rates,
teachers.
not your sub rate.
Okay, that's fine. Yes, also increase, so, okay.
Okay, so I'm assuming, Craig, you're voting no on also custodian at 12, or are you taking a yes on that? Okay, so you're gonna
Oh,
vote
wait,
no.
before we go, we have a question on another portion here. 5G. The rate of pay for replacement for the athletic trainer.
He's gonna go.
What is he
out on-
currently getting? This is the man who came to us and asked for an increased rate of pay. Now he's out. And what is he currently getting? Are we possibly paying these people from St. Charles Hospital more than we were paying him? But yet we refuse to increase his pay?
I have to defer to Bob to that.
According to Mark Delegated, the rate would be approximately $40 an hour. The difficulty now is they're balking at the contract and they haven't signed it yet.
Who's balking?
St. Charles.
Okay, my question is that,
Is this more or less?
is this
than what
more or
David-
less than what David is currently making?
It's approximately the same. He gets $20,000 for nominally 20 hours a week. Mark claims he puts in more.
That $20,000 averages out to about $40 an hour, you're saying? So it's approximately the same.
Approximately.
Yeah, that's, we were just concerned that we were paying them more.
No.
Than he wasn't, and he came to us to increase his pay, and we basically said no. So then you're gonna pay someone else more. Doesn't make it, that didn't make any
Can't
sense. Okay, that was our concern. So we're okay with that? Okay, all right, that was our question. Just because you're out, why is he out? What's the name of the license? Okay, so vacation, so we'll vote this one?
Okay, I'm calling for a motion on a Schedule 2.
Motion.
Second, all in favor?
Second.
Okay, so except, obviously, except right on that one. Do we have anything in amended, then in Schedule 3? Sorry, 2?
No.
Okay, so we're moving on to financial matters. I'm going to take a motion on,
Do all 5 of them at once?
Items 2 through
So it's not individual, so I'm taking a vote on that. Okay, so I can take financial matters, items 2 through 5. I'm gonna take a motion and we're gonna go into discussion if anyone has any questions. I second the motion. Does anybody have any questions?
I have a question. And I brought it up before, and I'm just curious at what point we're gonna look at it and when we're gonna do this, but some of those overtime numbers are pretty large. When are we gonna look at hiring another person that we have in some departments compared to the cost of the overtime compared to another person with benefits? We're gonna do any analysis there rather than continuing to get these overtime reports that sometimes look like they're a significant amount of money.
So I think
That's, you know, some, just
if I can make a
bringing it up again.
if I can make a recommendation, if you want, if you have like a particular question like that, maybe you could give Sharon a little time, and then she could come back to the next board meeting, and then we could discuss it,
That's fine, that's fine with me. I would just like to have some sort of, you know, with some of the, and it's not all, it seems to be like some of the larger numbers in certain areas, like just, I forget where, just close my window.
tell you.
But there's like a buildings and grounds one over the summer that's like 100 and something, like 300 and something hours. And listen, I don't know what they're doing, but maybe they're doing something, whatever, it just seems kind of odd.
That was the tennis court repair.
That was a tennis court, okay, all right, so that's, so that makes sense there. Well, I guess it does and it doesn't. Why are we paying them overtime to do that?
Because of all the other work that they're doing as we work it out, you know, so
If you saw the tennis
it's a
court,
balancing
So
act.
essentially, we couldn't fit it in during normal time, so we planned it during overtime, and that cost is still cost effective rather than hiring someone externally?
No other company would come in and do it because of the size.
Okay, all right, so that makes sense, that's, so that's one that then obviously is a one-time thing, we wouldn't matter, but just, I've just noticed over time, a lot of these overtime reports, and just wondering, is there a spot where we could possibly hire someone which would be not only more cost-effective than the overtime, but also help in some of your response times and things like that, depending on what the situation is?
But we do, I mean, we do have a circumstance that you're describing in the accounting department. You know, I moved up, and then the person under me, who's an accountant, moved into my position. So apparently I was replaceable and she's not, and we still don't have anybody in that role.
So we're paying overtime?
We're paying overtime.
Well, then
We
that may be one of the
had
ones we need to look at.
turnover in the HR department, and that involved training by the former people to the new people. That contributed to overtime. We have duplicating, which is up a tremendous amount because of Common Core and photocopying that material. But, you know, there, that's an example.
Don't get me started.
What?
Don't get me started.
You know, I'm always going to say the truth,
But
whether
that's
you
what
take it or not. And
Oh,
we can't,
materials, copying materials.
we can't hire somebody down there because we only have 3 machines. So, you know, a second person isn't going to make the machines.
Don, I didn't hear what you
faster.
said, though, you was high materials for what?
There's a big project that's been going on
No,
downstairs.
Friday, you said the copying materials was for what?
For
program?
teachers.
For Common Core?
For teachers,
Oh, I
yeah.
No, she said for
Common
teachers.
Core.
Common Core, oh, I don't know.
Yeah.
Is that what you said, Mr.?
I know.
She said there's a lot more things being duplicated for Common Core.
Oh, for Common
For
Core.
Common Core.
I think you all misheard.
I did, oh, okay.
The culprit was Common Core.
Everybody's blaming the Common Core.
And
Ruined the
then-
tennis courts,
And then
too.
the technology.
Boy, they jumped off that bandwagon fast.
I think so.
The technology department with the smart board installation. So,
Yeah, definitely, and I think it's something we should look at.
so I already have the analysis
Oh,
of.
nice.
I'm hiring IT.
Well, then it's something we should discuss, then, if you have an analysis already, then it's definitely something, not tonight, but.
I did in the budget guidelines. I wanted
The budget guidelines,
Yes, that one I saw, but not some of the others.
Yeah, well, I can't replace Diana,
Will be coming to you.
trying.
Want to buy another machine?
She was the one who replaced me. Buy another machine.
Buy another machine, we can't fit it. Go ahead.
We've already got 3 down there, no
Use
more
these
room.
ones.
We're getting silly now.
All right, let's move on, because it's getting late.
You have a motion on the table.
All right, so all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, now we're moving over to consent agenda. We're taking a motion and we're going to discuss the items 2 through 12. I'm taking a motion, then we'll have a discussion. Motion? What? I need a second?
Second.
I did the motion. I'll take the motion. Yes, any questions?
Question number 3, that's what's different now than,
I'm sorry, Ted?
what's different than number 3 that we discussed in public session? Anything?
What was that again?
That has been pulled.
Oh, so we're gonna pull 3,
We have
okay?
to pull 3, we have to table 3.
All right.
Oh, okay.
Good job, Ted.
Any questions? All in favor? Aye, all right, we're moving down to reports. Board of Education committees. Okay, moving on to superintendent report.
Well, one of the things that we talked about in light of the different things that have happened is every single administrator, as well as most of our directors, will be trained in incident command systems on January 21st. So we will be undergoing all that training in order to be able to assess situations quicker, respond to situations more quickly, and that training will then really help to inform some of our practices moving forward. On January 28th, the steering committee is inviting the public to the American Nurse movie. The brochure and invitation, save the date, it went out to the public on Friday of last week. The zombie walk was a huge success at the high school for CFAP. About 150 people walked. I was unable to make it this year, and I was so excited because my son and I had such a good time doing it last year, but he had a basketball game, so I went to go see him play. On May 22nd, our varsity girls volleyball team, will be honored at a Mets game. So if you're a Met fan, or if you're not a Met fan, you still need to buy a ticket for the May 22nd game to honor our girls. The Civic Club at the high school is currently translating all of our emergency protocols that would normally be very easy to communicate with our students, and they're translating it into the multiple different languages that our ENL students actually bring to the table at high school and middle school. So, you know, if you're a new registered from a foreign country that doesn't speak English, you will get a manual in your home language that talks about what a lockout means, what a lockdown means, what a lockdown means, and all the different protocols that our kids kind of take for granted, translated to their home language, which was a really nice event for the Civic Club to do.
Is that in relation to February 1st?
No, that's February 1st is our ENL parents from district-wide, Denise Hanaway, and she's the director of ENL and foreign language. She's having an event for all of the families in our district who have children who are speakers of other languages to come together and have an event to have the kids get together and get to know each other and the families and begin a support system with the different families. This was actually something that I asked Michelle to do in light of the fact that we have about 15 different languages now across the district, so our kids really deserve having a manual. I know that's nothing compared to Brentwood because I think they're in the 60s. No, they're in the 60s actually. And so that was something that Michelle's club was willing to do very quickly. Both the Business Advisory Council and the Civic Association of Connetquot have reached out to Tom Silney and will be working together to do things for our community through his office. And I have to say, as usual, I completely enjoyed the holiday concerts. What our kids do and our teachers are able to have our kids, the level of excellence that is exhibited on at those concerts is just unbelievable. It's awe-inspiring and breathtaking, and I truly enjoyed being able to go for, I think I went for 6 days straight. I went to all the middle school concerts and all the high school concerts, and it's just uplifting. And my husband gets to not have to pay for a ticket because it's our anniversary, so he gets to do a dinner and a show, and he gets a free show.
There you go.
So, and I get pizza after. Wonder why I stayed with him for 22 years, but it was really, it's really fun. So that's my report.
Okay, Dean.
So, as the superintendent mentioned, we have our Winter Around the World celebration for our ENL parents, February 1st on Connetquot Middle School, so we all have been invited. In addition, our Foreign Language Honor Society has adopted one of our local Head Start programs, and it goes down there once a week and meets to their students, so we're very excited about that. All initiated from our foreign language. In addition to that, we are in the process, we've received all of the smart boards and new technology, so they're all on site right now. We'll be starting our walkthrough with the vendor for installation, and we anticipate completing installation of about 140 smart boards district-wide, probably by the end of February. That's our goal. In addition to that, we will then be starting our wireless project, which will include making all of our elementary schools wireless. So we're very excited about that. So that's where we are.
Very good.
So I think
Sharon? Sharon, you have anything
I
you'd
was
like to
going
report?
to bring up that I'd like for there to be a proposition on May's ballot, which the superintendent is discussing, for establishing a capital reserve. But we did hit on that earlier, to address some of our other infrastructure items that aren't in the 2014 bill.
In order to establish a capital reserve, we have to have the public vote on it every year. Am I correct about that, Sharon? So if we wanted to do it at the 16-17 budget, we would have to do it. If we wanted to take more money out of 17-18, we'd have to vote on that every single year. Am I correct?
And when we want to fund it, the board would make a resolution. When you first establish it, the public has to vote on it. You set parameters, how much it'll be.
So will you give us the details on that? You know, the parameters and what it entails?
You know, I'm thinking about 7 million, which is in line with the past couple of projects we've done. But, you know, just really in the infancy stages of an amount.
So I guess maybe towards February, March, you'll have a more accurate number, or you still need?
Yeah, John and I have been discussing also with the superintendent which projects, what kind of projects, and I have a whole list of them. Some of them we spoke about earlier, that we need to provide.
So what is the balance of the other items you'd like to address? You don't mind sharing?
This is preliminary thinking.
The preliminary thinking.
Yeah, and we still need to get more information in from some of the buildings and the building condition survey, which the architects are wrapping up now. How often is that done? How many years?
It's a 5-year building condition survey.
So it's being done now.
Yeah.
But we do have some information from that, from John walking around with the architect. Crown boiler, a snow shed. This is a dome to get the sand and soil mixture out from underneath the high school, because it's very corrosive, and also will open up an area for storage. Storage is a big problem there. When they store things down there because of the corrosiveness, you know, this stuff gets ruined. The high voltage cable we spoke about, not only here but at other schools. The generator disconnect, when we had prices 2 years ago for this, it came in at 1.3 million, just so a building could stay up and have the disconnect, and then there would be a portable generator to go to whatever building was having a problem, so that we're not buying a generator for every building. Both boilers, both of them need to be replaced. Asbestos flooring abatements, carpeting in the high school library, boys' locker room showers, steam piping at OBMS, gang bathrooms at both of the middle schools, rooftop exhaust fans at many of the schools, additional repaving, cafeteria divider and flooring at Idle Hour, and the Sycamore ventilation AC in the auditorium.
Thank you.
That's just, you know.
I know, I just wanted to have an idea where you were going.
Thank you.
You know, John, I'm gonna ask a dumb question.
I doubt that.
So the other day, of course, the boilers go out, and the kids were there until 5 o'clock, right?
Yes.
So my son takes a shower, and he's like, that was one cold shower. So I'm assuming we don't have any water tanks in the building.
The boiler has a pipe that goes through the hot water heater and it's coiled, and that's how it's
Right.
used. So if the boiler's not.
So there's no separate water heater for that.
Correct.
So is that something obsolete or something to think about?
Well, I really haven't done a cost effectiveness of both. I
Because
mean,
they have the tankless heat, they have the tankless ones. It's like on a commercial grade as well?
Well, you're gonna have a hard time using a tankless system, plumbing it from the boiler room all the way over to the showers and everything else. What really should happen is we should be looking at, the kitchen has its own hot water heater. I don't know the space and how much volume we would need, but if there was a space closer to the locker room, we could put a high efficiency electric hot water heater down there.
Yeah.
How about the one day a boiler goes down, we just want to take a shower?
I would
You're gonna get some home early anyway.
The only reason why I asked the question is because if you were down, you would need to circulate hot water through your pipes as a backup. That's the only reason why the water heater came into my mind. I'm not saying we shouldn't invest in a water heater, I was just saying to prevent your pipes from freezing. You know where I was going with this.
If you want to donate one, Mylan, we'll
It's
take a
separate.
donation, right?
But if it's separate, it wouldn't.
What?
If it's a separate system just for.
It would be,
It wouldn't do it.
Right, but you see where I was going.
No, yeah. Just teasing. But if it's a separate system.
We're not getting a water heater, don't get nervous, I was just throwing it out.
I'm not nervous at all. A water heater relative to some of the other things is insignificant.
My wife's taking a lot of cold showers. My wife's taking a lot of cold showers in the last 2 weeks.
You turning the boiler up at all?
No, it's gone off 6 times in the last week and a half.
I thought you were getting personal with us there.
No, I've had similar problems in high school.
Did you get John on it?
Okay, anybody else has anything to report? Video? Oh, we're on video, well, I know that. Okay, I guess nobody else has anything else to report. Board of Education, anybody have anything to report?
It was only last year, the plays were wonderful.
Mr. Cole would like to
I mean,
speak.
the musicals.
Yeah, I actually had the opportunity to go into, they do at the mall, the OBMS.
Yes.
Beautiful, really, really nice. Okay, we're moving over to public participation, same rules apply, address the president. Public comments.
Mr. Cole. Oh, he's left.
All right.
Gentleman.
I'm back. So I wanted to go back to that I wrote to Mr. Freeman, because I noticed that we do have, every time I come here, except for tonight, we usually have it, there's usually the doors are closed, you guys are in executive session. So I wrote to him and he said, it appears that the board conducts an executive session before each meeting. If that is the manner in which the board functions, it's failing to comply with the open meetings law. And he goes on and on about that it was determined by the courts decades ago that any gathering of a quorum, the majority of the board. Anyway, I've said this before. Say it again. We have to make sure that we do things by the book. I don't know. Did you guys do training?
You want to pause the time and we'll have Lisa address that?
Hold on one sec. Did you guys do? You did? Okay. We didn't pause the time.
Already completed.
So what their practice is they notice that there is a meeting that starts at 6:30. They open their meeting and they make a motion to go into executive session. So technically you can be here at 6:30. It's an open meeting and they make a motion to go into executive session for whatever reasons are applicable at the time. Then they go into an executive session. As a courtesy to the public, they let you know that this is a possibility that there may be an executive session at 6:30 and that you can come at 7:30 or you can come at 6:30 when the meeting is officially starting. But if they do go into executive session, you know you might be waiting for an hour or so.
Well, again, I think you misunderstood me. When we've gotten here, we've sat out there for the hour. The doors have been closed and there has been an executive session.
Right.
So it's an enormous amount of executive sessions, and there are very specific items that get discussed in executive session. It's defined to mean a portion of an open meeting during which the public may be excluded. It is not separate from an open meeting, but rather part of the open meeting, which you just said. For that reason, and based on the language of the law and the judicial precedent, an executive session cannot be held prior to an open meeting. As you may be aware, before an executive session may be held, a motion to do so must be made public, which you just said that they do. But then there's a list, and you guys actually put it on your consent agenda, not on the consent agenda, on the agenda. There's a list that says everything that
The enumerated reasons to go into exec session.
And there's been many executive sessions each time, and I can't see how we have that much.
We haven't had an exec session without you.
Right, so what is excluded from exec session, but is allowed to be discussed discuss with the board without the public is legal advice, which is why we're always here. So
We have students, we
most
have
of the
surveys.
time, we're talking, I don't even know if I can share this without permission of the Board of Education. But just many times, with many boards of education, and this would include it, the attorneys are here because they're conferring legal advice. So that is an exclusion to the executive
Yep, that is
session,
absolutely
and it can
exclusion.
occur without the public.
But then we're gonna talk about it in another meeting, we're gonna talk about how much we're paying them for all this legal advice. I'm just saying. Anyway, so I wrote to you because I wanted to know how come we have so many executive sessions.
She knows what she gets paid, you don't have to remind her.
Well, I want to remind the public. So then, I want to talk about, in my last minute and 53 seconds, there's a rumor going around, and we don't have a rumors board anymore, so I have to bring them right here, that, and I know that you can't discuss contracts, but there's someone's contract that is up that may not be renewed. And I won't say the specific person, but I'm sure you'll get what I'm talking about as I go on. I just want to say that we've had 3 superintendents in the last 3 years, and this district has been in uproar in search superintendents. When I first met our superintendent, our current superintendent, I was not a fan. Everybody knows that. I've seen I was not a fan of committees. I thought they were a waste of time. I've been coming to these meetings for a long time now, about 9 years. And so I've seen the turnover. But I also have seen some of the good positive things that our current superintendent is doing. So I'm hoping that you take all of that into consideration when you think about that. Do we really want to throw this district into turmoil and have 5 nights a week of interviewing another superintendent? And if you do decide to do that, be prepared that I'm going to be up here asking you why you think
Well,
that
I
that's a
can
good
address the
idea.
rumor because you and I spoke about it, we stopped the time, you and I spoke about it briefly. I think that was more of a manipulation and
It's a
sabotage.
rumor.
It was more of a manipulation and a.
Which is why I bring it out in public.
So it's a more of a manipulation and a sabotage than it's
I
actually
think
about the content itself.
First of all, we shouldn't be discussing this at all, because if it's a rumor, then we're giving it justice by discussing it.
I'm just saying it's manipulation.
I'm just saying that we shouldn't be discussing it at all.
And I said to her.
Because if it's a rumor, then it truly is a rumor, and we're giving it justice, and we're saying that it's happening.
Shouldn't be any discussion.
Then thank you for coming to our district.
I just wanted, I like to bring up rumors to make
It gets a
sure
little
that
deeper.
I get my opinion out there about this rumor, because there's always some truth to rumor. Is it exaggerated, is it blown up? Absolutely, but there's a little bit of truth in every rumor that goes around. So I wanted to let you know that from the people that I spoke with, and there's been several, not that many this time because I've been busy with other home things, but we feel, the parents that I spoke to, that we don't want this disruption in our school district here. We feel that our current superintendent is doing a good job, and we'll continue to do that, and we'll continue as parents to hold her responsible. We hope that you, the board, will do that as well, and not put us into an uproar. That's my opinion, few other parents, and I'm sure I can get more people down here to say the same thing. But it's on a rumor, and I just wanted to let you know that that rumor was out there.
It's a read of contention, that's what it
That's
is. It's nothing more than
So
that.
that's your opinion. Again, we have this truth and a little bit of truth to everything. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Cole, yeah, why didn't you jump in front of Eileen? What's going on?
He said I could go.
Well, I am glad actually now that I did hear that. Sorry.
You'd like to comment on the room?
We need a rumors board again.
Just stop me when I ask a question, just because I ask dumb questions.
It has a lag time because it's on the
We
web.
follow Robert's Rules of Order.
Yes.
That's a formal process by which this board runs its business. So I think it's important that there's a lot of probably uneducated folks on what that means and how we run Robert's Rules of Orders and how you facilitate those meetings and why you would go into certain periods of a meeting. And I think that would probably be helpful. It's not necessarily your responsibility, but Robert Rules of Order is government, is the policy by which most are run. Okay? I just came here to say thank you, to be honest with you. I think that the situation last week, I spent most of my career thinking of things that are going wrong, emergency action plans, and from sports medicine to how do you get 5,000 people out of the building when a gun comes in, or when somebody storms the court, and who's getting. So I just want to say thank you. I mean, I asked a question. I missed the first part. I apologize. I came straight from work and then was coaching. But I wanted to say thank you because my understanding was that they were on the bus stop or on the way home. And I'm a little concerned, it's interesting to me that, our senior leadership team's only been here for a year and a half. Is that accurate?
Correct, yes.
Okay, so that's a little concerning to me because I think that this transition in board stuff, and look, we're getting after issues. I think it's really healthy to debate. I think it's really healthy to challenge the heck out of things like you guys do. I think it's awesome. I don't have to agree with you, but I think that's your job, and I think that's our job. Did you close that for one second?
You can't think and speak at the same time.
The athletic trainer piece, I would take a look at. I think, Nick, your point's pretty good. There are multiple options there. There are 5 districts in Suffolk County that are currently hiring a full-time athletic trainer. So I would look at a full-time ATC versus part-time versus overtime, the liabilities you had if you don't have them there, depending on injury and head trauma injuries. Because all we are as high school coaches are first aid, AED, CPR trained, right? They're not going to make a concussion. We can be concussion tested and trained, but they're the ones that have to do it. So I would look at all 3, and there's a website that you guys can look at. I would like to speak briefly. This is, I'd like to thank. I don't really know Ms. Adams very well, but I think you're terrific. I know you're not perfect, but there are frustrations in leadership. Where can I find mission and goals of the district?
Board docs.
It's on the board docs
on
and
our
website.
website.
Okay, because the frustration I'm having is the perception. And listen, I deal with this every day as you all do. I get it. But the perception of us all trying to make a difference in leadership positions, whether it's the board or superintendents or principals or unions or multiple unions, our job is to commit to the success of our students in our district. Am I paraphrasing the mission and goals of our district? You guys are teachers. Yeah. That's our goals, right? Without agenda, without a personal agenda, without one constituent group. So I guess the thing I'm concerned about is that I just really came here to say, really good job. We're going to have crises all throughout. We're going to have crises throughout our time here. We hope we minimize them. That's what you guys are doing. A year and a half to learn how many properties we have.
In a year.
I mean, we're not.
John hasn't been here yet.
So I would caution us to continue to challenge the heck out of each other.
And we do.
And be challenged by our unions, and be challenged by our teachers, and be challenged by us that may not know what the heck goes on in day-to-day business of running the district. But I see change in this room.
Good change.
And I've been coming for 7 or 8 years when I can, because I work 53 miles away from here. I come when I can. I see change. I see a superintendent that reaches kids, that is addressing issues. I see presence in our buildings. I see you guys present in buildings.
Yep.
Leadership is a collective responsibility. We just put together a great administrative team for a year and a half. I hope we continue to challenge our leadership, celebrate them, and let's not have agendas drive our decisions. Let's meet goals and objectives for all of us. And I challenge us. Look, I know we're going to agree to disagree on a lot of things.
Yep,
I don't have to agree with Ms. Adams. I don't have to agree with the board, but we haven't. I'm okay with it. It's your guys. You're the job. I get to come speak for graciously a little over 3 minutes. But my concern is perception becomes reality.
Yes.
And when I read articles in Station School District by dear friends that are there, and the challenge is, if it can happen in one community, it can happen in any community. So let's not be ignorant or arrogant enough to think that our imperfect district, which we are, I see change in the air. It ain't easy, and it's sometimes painful. But I think we've got a year and a half our senior teams put in place with how many new board members that we have.
And you're doing a great job too. I meant to say that as well. I love the discussion that has been going on. Sorry to kick in there, but I had to say that. It's been
I'm
nice,
like 4.5
polite.
minutes. You're cutting into my training.
Sorry.
You're off the clock.
So,
we're off the clock.
So my question is this, and don't comment. I guess it's my statement.
Everything is technology, and everybody's using their finger and touching things. I know that we all do the smart boards and everything, but have we forgotten about keyboards? And if everybody's going to be on computers by the time they're in middle school, don't they need to do keyboarding? They do math games in computer lab. They do things with mouses. There's no typing. This is their lives. They will type for the rest of their lives. So the faster, or the better they learn those mannerisms sooner, the less you have to correct, because they'll know where their placement is. It's basically our handwriting. A lot of people talk about cursive, that it's not there, and that should be there, which is kind of a brutal awakening when you get to middle school, because they expect you to know it and have it, but it's not really in elementary school. But typing, my kindergartner can work on an iPad, thinks he can touch a computer screen, has no concept of a keyboard and a mouse. For the fact that we have so much technology and all the smart boards, our kids are going to be on computers for the rest of their lives. That really needs to be addressed. They need to have keyboard at every stage, because by the high school, it's going to be hard. So those are my 2%.
Thank you.
Thank you. I love you.
And thank you for tea today, that was very nice.
Oh.
I was invited to Sycamore today, so it was very nice to be invited to meet this young lady.
Thanks.
Okay, I need a motion to adjourn the meeting. Second, all in favor? Aye. 3 ayes, 1 no.
Take care. And Miss Candace speaks to the camera.